Chapter 35:17. How come things have come to this? Luli was shocked by what was happening at the dace race and the dace race. He had thought it would be a mess, but it turned out to be this messy? Luli didn't even have to go out of his way to ask about the news. Many warriors were heading over after hearing about what was happening. They were not going to find Luli, but to rob. Everyone was kicking a man when he was down. The dace race usually enjoyed a high status. Many warriors of smaller races didn't have the courage to mess with them. Now that they had a chance to mess around, they would feel good even if they didn't get anything. They could boast that they were the one who shat on the dace race back in the day. Most of the martial artists went there just to have fun. It was a grand occasion for all kinds of demons to dance around. Luli lived in a small city leisurely. Death scouts would send him messages from time to time. He didn't want to take any actions yet. He wanted to let the chaos last for a while. He didn't even have to do anything, and it was already chaotic. If he went out now, maybe things wouldn't be so messy. How could he go and harm the dace race and the dace race when everyone was here to capture him? For the next month or so, the dace race's universe was even more chaotic. Apart from the major cities in each universe, the other places were devastated. At first, the places with resources were looted over and over again. Many mineral veins with a depth of hundreds of thousands of miles were emptied. Now that there was nothing left in the places with resources, the old warriors began to target the smaller families in the small cities. A group of old warriors rushed into a small city and locked onto a relatively wealthy family. Then Gao Han shouted, "Luli is in there!" The old warriors rushed in and killed the powerful warriors of the family as if they were watermelons. Then they began to loot. In an hour, the family was ransacked. The other warriors were surprised that this was possible. Many warriors began to stare at the families in the city and shouted, "Luli, where are you going? Luli is here. Come and attack him. Don't let him get away. Luli, surrender now or we will kill him." Like an avalanche, the news spread out. Other places followed suit. In just half a month, the universes under the control of the dace race were all in a tragedy. Almost all the cities were ransacked. The number of casualties was uncountable. This time, the dace race was really hurt. There were only so many warriors in a big race. How could they manage so many universes? The management at the bottom was basically done by the small families. Now, the small clans at the bottom had either been slaughtered or had fled. Many realms had become empty. The Carp clan wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This time, their vitality had been greatly damaged, and it was estimated that it would take several thousand years for them to recover. The dace race's affiliated groups were miserable as well. They might not be able to keep so many universes. The dace race's affiliated groups were miserable as well. The dace race was to have many universes under the dace race. Their clansmen were all holed up in a city, and this city was constantly activated to prevent any martial artists from entering. Otherwise, this city would have been plundered clean. More than a month later, most of the warriors who entered the Dang clan's affiliated world made a small fortune, and many of them made a windfall. The Lulu, the Li, the dace to the Dang the race. The clan were the race. The dace race was not to be messed with. But the affiliated families and groups could be messed with. The law did not punish the masses. Before the Gui race made their stance clear, they could still make some money. Wouldn't it be easier for them to retreat after the Gui race got angry? Immediately, several old demons organized a large group of warriors to go to the affiliated groups of the Gui race. They were smart. If they were the only ones going to loot, it would be too obvious. If they mobilized hundreds of thousands of warriors, the situation would be chaotic. The Gui race would not only focus on them. These old demons robbed the most. They enjoyed it the most and made the other old demons jealous. How could they hide it from the other old demons when they mobilized so many warriors to the affiliated groups of the Gui race? The other old demons were tempted. They began to organize their own armies to go to the other Gui races' affiliated group. The rest of the warriors saw that they were going. They should go as well. After all, the bird that sticks out gets shot. They were just going to get some leftovers. If the Gui race wanted to kill, it would not be them. What was more, they were going to track down Luli. They were responding to the Gui race's call. They were going to help the Gui race. In 1 month, more than half of the billions of warriors of the Carp race went to the Gui race. At first, they went to the affiliated groups and then to the ones ruled by the Gui race. After all, they were going to help track down Luli. They were guests of the Gui race. There was no place they couldn't go. The tragedy of the Carp race began to repeat itself on the Gui race's side. At first, they looted the resources of the Gui race's subsidiary tribes, and then they began to loot the cities. A group of warriors moved like locusts, and wherever they went, not even a blade of grass would grow. Many messages for help were sent. Many clan leaders of minor races swarmed into the cities, accusing the warriors of crimes and asking the Gui race to uphold justice for them. The second patriarch, who was in charge of the daily affairs of the Gui race, was enraged. He sent out many patriarchs to go to different places to suppress the chaos. Those warriors were brought to justice, and all the treasures and resources they had looted were to be spat out. That being said, the Gui race had occupied so many regions. Now there was looting in every region. There were only about 100 patriarchs of the Gui race. How many patriarchs could there be in each region? The base camp did not need patriarchs. There were so many affairs of the Gui race that did not need patriarchs to handle. Many regions sent 2 or 3 patriarchs to lead armies to suppress the loot and recover the loot. If the Gui race sent out a large number of patriarchs, those old demons might leave or spit out the loot. Did they think they could suppress the Gui race with only 2 or 3 patriarchs? Did they expect the Gui race to spit out what they had taken? Moreover, only 2 or 3 elders had come. Did this Gui clan elder really think that he could make them tremble in fear just by relying on the prestige of the Gui clan? Did they think they could make the Gui race kneel on the ground and hand over all the treasures and resources? Since those old demons dared to come to the Gui race to loot, they must be audacious and lawless. As a result, the Gui race suffered a tragedy. Wars broke out in many places. Patriarchs were killed. Those old demons, in for a penny, in for a pound. After they killed the patriarchs of the Gui race, they began to wreak blood in the major cities of the local regions. Then, they ran away, claiming that it was Lu Li's doing. The Gui race was strong. But there were other major races in the Dipper Galaxy that were more powerful than the Gui race. As long as the Gui race could escape to the regions occupied by the major races, what could the Gui race do to them? 2 months passed. 26 patriarchs of the Gui race were killed. When the news was sent back to the Bai city, even the complete Gui race could not sit still. The chief patriarch issued a notice in person that he would deal with anyone who dared to loot and kill indiscriminately. Since the complete Gui race had given the order, the old demons behaved themselves. They all left the Gui race. Luli stopped looking for more. He had gained a lot this time. It was time to quit. If he went on and angered the Gui race, the gains would not make up for the losses. 3 Patriarchs. Chapter 35:18. Luli could not sit still when he heard that many warriors were leaving the region of the Guis. Now that the warriors were gone, the region of the Guis would not be in chaos. Therefore, it was time for Luli to make a move. He had to mess things up. He sneaked over. He was not far away to begin with. In half a month, he had arrived at the Guis. Then, he showed up in the open. He attacked a city and bathed the city in blood. Not only did he reveal his face, but he also released his signature tripod and flames. He wished he could tell all the warriors in the world that he was in the region of the Guis. He said in front of many civilians in the city that if the Guis were to help the Carp race against him, then they would have to pay with their blood. Since the GUIs wanted to play, then he would play along. Unless the GUIs were to send out a perfect warrior, he would kill all the other warriors of the GUIs. After he succeeded, he left at once. There were still some warriors that stayed. Some of them recorded Lu Li's words with memory crystals and disseminated the information. The entire Tiangang galaxy was in an uproar when the news spread out. Lu Li, who had been silent for so long, had shown up again. He attacked a city of the GUIs and declared that he would play along until the end. But Lu Li's words were skillful. Clearly, he was looking down on the average warriors and patriarchs of the GUIs. He was implying that only a perfect warrior of the GUIs could kill him. While this would enrage the GUIs completely, the perfect warrior of the GUIs would have some concerns as well. After all, the GUIs were a super race. They had so many warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect warrior. However, Lu Li was all by himself and he appeared to be only at the Emperor realm. If the GUIs were to send out a perfect warrior, they would be the laughingstock of the entire Tiangang galaxy. The pride of the GUIs at the perfect warrior level would not allow them to come out easily unless it could affect the survival of the GUIs. Lu Li said this on purpose. He didn't want the GUIs to send out a perfect warrior so soon. In that case, he would be in danger. He wanted to beat the GUIs up and then negotiate with them to give up the carp race and allow the god of death to build a base in the Tiangang galaxy. As soon as Lu Li showed up, many warriors that had left the GUIs universe came back. Originally, they were here to find Lu Li, but because they couldn't find Lu Li, they changed their mind and started to rob. Now that Lu Li had shown up, they believed they could return to the right path and join the search for Lu Li. After all, capturing or killing Lu Li could earn a favor from the GUIs. Many warriors of major races returned to the GUIs' territory. The GUIs didn't say anything. As long as those warriors did not do anything rash and help to search for Lu Li, the GUIs would be happy. In 10 days, tens of millions of warriors swarmed into the universe where Lu Li showed up. With so many warriors searching all over the universe, it was only natural that there would be some minor damages. Occasionally, there would be some disputes and fights. Slowly, some things would start to happen, and the interface would soon become chaotic. Once there was chaos, there would naturally be old devils who would start to fish in troubled waters. As a result, this plane became chaotic because there were too many warriors. Although there were powerful GUIs here, it was not easy to suppress them. Most of the warriors did not act rashly. They were here to help search for Lu Li. They could not be driven away, could they? Many warriors did have tracking skills. Even though there were some who liked to fish in troubled waters, it was so chaotic that it was impossible to tell who was the culprit. The search had been going on for half a month. The entire place was in trouble. Millions of warriors had passed away during this time. Many of them were killed for no reason. Many places with resources and treasures were destroyed and looted. There were so many warriors, but no one knew who was the culprit. Right at that moment, a message came from a nearby universe. Lu Li had shown up there. The GUIs had sealed off the universe so that people could only enter but not leave. They asked for reinforcements to track down Lu Li. Warriors nearby swarmed over. In just 10 days, hundreds of millions of warriors had swarmed into the universe. The GUIs didn't care about that many. More than a dozen patriarchs came to seal off the universe so that the old devils and warriors of other races could go after Lu Li. The universe was not a particularly large one. Now that hundreds of millions of warriors had swarmed in and there were already many warriors in the universe, it was a mess. Some of the old devils were not here for Lu Li. They were here to take advantage of the chaos to make a fortune. As a result, what happened in the universe of the carp race repeated itself. Several old devils were outside a family, shouting that Lu Li was inside. Then, they rushed in and hacked at the family. They took all the treasures and resources and left. It was the same for some places with resources and treasures. Some old devils even went overboard. They pointed at a Guis at the later stage of the Saint King realm, and said that he was Luli in disguise and that they should kill him together in just half a month's time. This realm had become foul again. The natives inside were suffering unspeakably, but what could they do? To capture Luli, they were willing to pay the price. For the Guis, they could even destroy the universe, let alone pay the price. Including the warriors that came later, there were more than 1 billion warriors looking for Luli. Among them were more than a dozen patriarchs of the Guis race. There were nearly 100 warriors that were close to the consummate realm. But they found nothing after more than half a month. Not to mention finding Luli, they couldn't even see a shadow of Luli. They did find many fake Luli. Someone would bring a giant body to the mansion of the city to claim rewards, only to be chased out by the Guis. The powerful Guis were confused. When they learned the news, they sealed off the universe at once. Theoretically speaking, Luli should not have had the chance to escape. Why couldn't so many warriors find Luli? There were many powerful warriors that were used to tracking major races, and some old devils were good at tracking as well. Another half a month later, when the universe was almost wiped out, Luli showed up again. This time, he appeared in a large universe, one of the most important ones of the Guis. There were more than a dozen places with resources and treasures in this universe. Usually, there were powerful warriors guarding them. Luli attacked a place with resources but not a special one. He didn't go after their patriarchs either. He only attacked a small place with resources and killed more than a dozen Saint Kings and 2,000 warriors. Luli left some alive. Once again, he warned the Guis not to break their promise and stop hunting him and to stop protecting the Dang race. Otherwise, Luli's attacks would go on. Powerful warriors of the Guam race were enraged. Many patriarchs gathered over there. When the patriarchs arrived, Luli had attacked another small city and revealed himself. This time, the powerful Guis were excited. They sealed off the universe at once and called for more warriors to search. This time, Luli could not escape. 3 patriarchs. Chapter 35:19. This time, Luli did not leave the universe because he had caused trouble to 2 universes. The Guis would be suspicious of his intentions. By then, the Guis might not allow warriors from other races to come to this universe. Therefore, he used himself as bait to attract warriors in so that they could wreak havoc on this universe as well. Many powerful warriors of the Guis were mobilized, but they did not go in. Instead, warriors from the inside came out and sealed off all the entrances and exits at once. Luli would not be able to run away this time. When many of the Guis came, Luli was still attacking in a small city. Armies and powerful warriors were mobilized. All the entrances and exits were sealed off. Every entrance and exit was guarded by 2 warriors close to the consummate realm and dozens of Saint Kings. The entrances and exits were covered with powerful runes. Only warriors at the consummate realm could come out without making a sound. Same old rules. This time, only entry was allowed, not exit. Average warriors could go in. Of course, 6th Tribulation warriors could not go in. Only those of the Quasi-Emperor realm or special races with tracking skills could go in. This universe was important to the Guis. They did not want the universe to be in a mess. Therefore, they sent fewer warriors in. Even so, in the next 10 days, more than tens of millions of warriors went in. This time, there were many powerful warriors. Many old demons came after hearing the news. There were more than 200 warriors that were close to the consummate realm. Warriors from the vassal races of the Gui race had also arrived in large numbers. It was likely that more warriors would enter this realm in the future. Luli was in this universe, but he did not hide. Instead, he went to the Dharma realm in a mountain. He planned to cultivate in the Dharma realm for half a year or something. He wanted to let the universe have a good time. He believed that at first, the warriors would search for him seriously. But as time went by, they would not be sure. Some old demons would act up. Sometimes people would want to do it again after doing it once. The old demons would not be able to control themselves. Something was bound to go wrong. As he had expected. At first, the searching warriors were honest and kept a low profile. They each searched an area. They sincerely wanted to find Luli as well. The 8 immortals tried their best to find Luli with their own means. Almost the entire plane had been turned upside down. Even many dangerous places had been flattened. Those old demons were also very law-abiding, searching all over the place day and night. Luli was still in this universe when the powerful Guis came. It meant that Luli hadn't left. Since Luli was here, there were so many powerful warriors with tracking skills. It was impossible that they couldn't find Luli. Although robbing was fun, if they could find Luli, then the rewards would be even greater. A favor from the Gui race, this was too valuable. The Gui race also mobilized their armies and experts to search. Hundreds of millions of warriors searched the entire world for an entire month. He flipped through the entire interface, but found nothing. The group of experts were unwilling to give up and continued to search. After searching for another 3 months, he still did not find anything. This time, it wasn't just the Gui race that was dumbfounded, even the experts that were chasing after them were dumbfounded. The number of armies and powerful warriors had reached hundreds of millions. Warriors were everywhere. Many tracking races had strange skills, but none of them had found Luli. After searching for so long, many martial artists were a little annoyed. In fact, he had already given up. Luli's art of hiding was too powerful. Perhaps no one could find him other than those at the consummate level. Since they could not find Luli, then they could not waste so much time and effort. They had to find a way to make up for it. Luli was right. After the old warriors did it once, they would want to do it again. They had such a good time looting at the carp race, and now they were having a good time in the small universe of the Gui race. This universe was richer. There were more than a dozen locations with resources, and the treasures inside were priceless. If they could get some, then the trip would be worthwhile. Desire grew like weeds. The locations that were searching for Luli were all sealed up at the moment. There were no powerful warriors inside. As long as they broke the seal, they would be able to easily slaughter the troops stationed inside. At that time, no one would know. Who would know that they were the culprits? The old warriors gathered together and decided to do it. This time, they didn't ask many warriors to go with them. Only 8 warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate level worked together. One of them was a master of sacred inscriptions. They cracked the seal on a location with resources. What happened next was simple. There were no warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate level guarding the place. There were thousands of warriors inside. They were slaughtered by the 8 warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate level. They didn't even have a chance to send a message. They were killed in an instant. After the soldier was killed, the 8 experts began to harvest. There were all top-notch divine medicines inside, and they were of the soul type. They were extremely rare and powerful, and in the 8 major star fields, they were pretty much the best soul divine medicines. There were more than 1,000 herbs here. Some of them were ripe, but the Gui race didn't harvest them. The older the herb, the more potent it would be. That was a great advantage for the 8 warriors. The 8 experts divided up the godly medicines inside. Not only did they harvest the mature godly medicines, but they also harvested the immature ones. They even harvested the newly grown ones. Those were top-level herbs that could be sold for many celestial stones. After the harvest, the warriors erased the traces and left. They carved some words on the rocks with swords. "This is the consequence of going against me, Luli." In less than half a day, the situation was discovered. It wasn't by the powerful warriors of the Gui race, but by the warriors that were searching. When they saw this scene, their faces were immediately filled with shock. Then, they quickly spread the news, and soon, countless powerhouses flocked to this place. More than a dozen patriarchs of the Gui race came as well. They were livid and furious to see the valley full of bodies and all the herbs that were harvested. They began to search nearby but found nothing. Luli had never been here. How could they find him? After 4 or 5 days of searching, the matter was left unsettled. The 8 warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate level realized this seemed to be a good idea. They could keep raiding places with resources and then shift the blame to Luli. There were no patriarchs guarding those places of resources. For them, those places were like naked lambs. They could plunder as much as they wanted and leave behind some word. After all, Luli had been made a scapegoat for so many times. It wouldn't be a big deal. Therefore, the warriors sneaked to another place with resources. They cracked the runes and looted everything. Then, they left some words behind and became Luli's scapegoat. The entire universe was in an uproar. So many warriors were chasing after Luli, but they didn't even see him. Luli, on the other hand, could walk under the nose of so many powerful warriors and loot one place of resources after another? Could it be the work of those old roasted demons? Some powerful warriors of major races and old warriors were having doubts. Some of them were familiar with this method. It was similar to the Romani demons' methods. Some old warriors were itching to make a move. There were more than a dozen top places of resources in this universe. If they could loot 2 or 3 of them, they would be rich. Let's do it. It didn't matter if it was the Romani demons or not. Many of the old demons had decided to do it. It would be a waste if they didn't do it. They just had to blame Luli for everything. The situation was getting messy. The Goe race wouldn't bite them if they just left after some looting. Master 3. Chapter 35-20. Several days later, another resource location was breached. Similarly, the warriors inside were killed and the resources looted. Still, some words were left behind with Luli's name. The tone was getting more and more arrogant. But this time, many warriors noticed something. The handwriting was different from before. It was in regular script, but now it was cursive. The powerful warriors of the Guam race were enraged. They didn't pay much attention to these details. One of the herbs in the resource location had been uprooted. It could be replanted, but it would take thousands of years for the resource location to recover. Some old warriors noticed this detail. They were already suspicious and now they were even more certain. These resources were definitely not looted by Luli, but by some old demons. There were only a few thousand warriors guarding those resource locations. It was too easy. As long as they could crack the runes, they could kill the warriors in an instant and then leave some words saying that it was Luli who did it. It would be a piece of cake. Usually, it was not so easy to loot a resource location of a super race. The situation here was chaotic. This was a godsend. Countless old devils were tempted. This time, there were more than 200 experts who were infinitely close to the Paragon realm and nearly 100 old devils. How could these old devils not be tempted when they saw how easily the Romani devils succeeded? Let's go after Luli. This Luli is so arrogant. He is ignoring us. We will not stop until we catch and kill him. Find him. We must find Luli. If we can catch this bastard, I will skin him alive. Filled with righteous indignation, the warriors of the Guam race rushed to all directions. The powerful warriors of the Guam race were glad to see this. It was a good thing that Luli had incurred public wrath. The warriors of the Guam race would probably fight to the death. Luli would not be able to get away now. In addition to the old warriors, many Saint Emperors left as well. Hundreds of Saint Emperors left with thousands of Emperor Realm warriors. They seemed to be angry. It seemed that they would not retreat until they found and killed Luli. The patriarchs of the Guam race took action. This was a disgrace to the Guam race. So many powerful warriors could not find Luli, and he had attacked a resource location right under their noses. How about, a patriarch suggested, how about we sneak into the resource locations and wait for Luli? I don't think so. Another patriarch said, Luli has amazing hiding skills and senses. I think if we go to the resource locations, Luli will not come to attack us. If he hides, it will be difficult for us to find him. We can go to the bigger resource locations. Once we get the message, we will be in trouble. Sure. Let's split into groups of 5 and split up. The elders of the Gui clan spread out and flew towards some of the bigger resources and treasures. However, before they could reach those resource-rich lands, bad news came. The 4 nearby large resource-rich lands were attacked at almost the same time. The soldiers inside were all killed, and the resources were all plundered. 4 resources were plundered almost at the same time, less than 2 hours apart. Also, words were left on all the resources, each one more arrogant than the other. It was as if Luli was going to trample on the Duans. Patriarchs of the Guam Luli went to investigate. The 4 places had different handwriting. Even though they were all carved on rocks with weapons, the handwriting was different. The style was different. If the patriarchs of the Guam Luli still could not understand the situation, they would be idiots. How dare you? You are out of control. The patriarchs of the Guam Luli were enraged. They searched for the truth at once. However, the old demons did it cleanly. No evidence was left behind. All the witnesses were killed. They were killed in an instant. They didn't even have the chance to send a message. Let's go to the other resource locations. The powerful warriors of the Guam Luli came to their senses after a round of investigation. It seemed that if they did not go to help now, the remaining few resource locations would be in danger. Immediately, the group of elders split up and rushed toward the remaining few top-grade resource spots. Boom, 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 boom. As expected, when a team of patriarchs arrived at a resource location, they saw 5 old demons attacking inside. More than half of the warriors were killed. The team of patriarchs was enraged to see this. They didn't care which race the old demons were from. All the patriarchs dashed over and killed. The 5 old demons were stunned. They sensed with psychic power that a group of patriarchs of the Guam Luli was charging at them like angry bulls. The 5 old demons were frightened. One of them yelled at once, "My friends of the Guam race, this is a misunderstanding. Luli just came in. We saw it with our own eyes. We are here to capture Luli. Patriarchs of the Guam race, what is the meaning of this? Why are you attacking us? I want to complain to your master." "Stop. If you do this, we will fight back." "Okay, we are wrong. Let's talk this out." "Stop. My lords, this is really a misunderstanding." "Stop. We will die if you do this." In a moment, the old demons could not stand it anymore. There were 10 patriarchs of the Guam race, which was twice as many as the Guam race. How could the old demons stand it? Soon, the old demons were injured. But the powerful ones of the Guam race did not stop. They kept on attacking. At this rate, the 5 old demons would lose their lives here. The only thing they could do was to beg for mercy. Begging for mercy was useless. The patriarchs of the Guam race had come to their senses. So, it was not Luli who attacked the land of resources. It was the work of the evil old demons. They felt they were being played and humiliated. What was more, many warriors in the land of resources had died miserably. How could they not be angry? They did not waste any time. They wanted to kill the 5 old demons. Run! The old demons knew that if they did not run now, none of them would be able to. At once, the 5 old demons released their powerful skills and moves to force the 10 patriarchs to retreat. Then, he frantically fled in all directions. However, there were 10 patriarchs here. If they could run away so easily, then the 10 patriarchs would be useless. The 10 patriarchs chased after them. In the end, they managed to capture 3 old demons. 2 of them were good at running away and they managed to get away. The other 3 were in a miserable state. 2 were killed and 1 surrendered and was captured. The other patriarchs went to other places of resources and encountered the same situation. Many old demons were attacking those places of resources. News came from different places that many saint emperors were attacking the smaller places of resources. Many of the smaller places of resources were robbed. Lu Li's words were still on them. It was quite ironic. The news was sent back to the Hall of Patriarchs of the Guam race. The second patriarch of the Guam race was enraged. He teleported over with powerful warriors in person. He wanted to teach these audacious people a lesson. Third Patriarch. Chapter 35-21. Almost all the experts of the Gui race came out, swearing to make these reckless experts pay the price. The army of the Gui race was also mobilized on a large scale. Last time, the Gui race's great elder had already said it, but this group of old demons still dared to mess around. Did they really think that the Gui race was a pushover that could be easily bullied? All the entrances and exits were sealed, and many of them were sealed with dozens of layers. It would take at least a few days to break through. The entrances and exits were monitored by martial artists, so it was extremely difficult to escape. The second elder of the Gui race teleported over with the experts and then sent out a message. All the martial artists and experts who participated in the plunder were to immediately come to Chengdu and confess their crimes. This way the Gui race could be lenient. Otherwise, when the time came, they would immediately kill one person they found. This news spread through the scouts of the Gui race. Many of the Saint Emperors and Thear-cranked experts who participated in the plunder were afraid. They all rushed to Chengdu and voluntarily handed over the treasures and resources that they had plundered, allowing the Gui race to punish them. However, the group of experts who were infinitely close to the perfected realm was not happy. As the supreme experts, they were all proud and did not want to put their fate in the hands of others. Therefore, some experts sent a message through a middleman, meaning that they were also here to help. Some of the experts and the Gui race were allies, so there was no need to make things so awkward. It was enough. They just had to leave. At most, they would hand over the things that they had plundered. The second elder was instantly enraged when he heard these words. They wanted to let it go with just one sentence after robbing and killing? Was there such a cheap thing in this world? Allies? Why didn't they think of allies when robbing and killing? This was outrageous. The second elder sent a message that there was no room for negotiation. Either come over and confess their crimes, or they would be killed without mercy. Once these words were sent out, there was no room for negotiation. This time, there were more than 100 experts who were infinitely close to the perfected realm who entered this domain. Including the Gui race, their subsidiary races, and the allies they invited, there were more than 200. Now that the second elder of the Gui race had mobilized dozens of experts, there were 300 experts who were infinitely close to the perfected realm. Of course, this time, there were only a few dozen experts who were infinitely close to the perfected realm. The other supreme experts did not participate in the plunder. Some of them wanted to make a move, but before they could, the second elder of the Gui race arrived. Therefore, they quickly stopped. Many experts who had not committed any crimes naturally came to Chengdu to show that they had not acted recklessly and were good comrades. Half a month later, the number of experts gathered in Chengdu had reached more than 200. Those who did not dare to come were naturally those who had committed crimes. Also, there were already some supreme experts who wanted to sneak out of this world. However, they were discovered when they were trying to decipher the divine inscriptions. When the experts from this side arrived, they immediately fled in panic. The second elder of the Gui race told most of the experts to stay in Rong City. He led dozens of elders and began to hunt down the experts who refused to come to Rong City. It was the second elder's order. Regardless of whether they were guilty or not, if they encountered them, they would capture them first. If they resisted, they would be killed without mercy. This order quickly spread. After all, there were so many warriors here. The news spread quickly. The remaining experts started to panic. If they couldn't escape, Were they supposed to just wait for death? Or did he fight to the death with the Gui race? The group of old devils gathered together and discussed for a while. In the end, they decided to flee for a while to avoid the brunt of the attack. They wanted to see if the Gui race would really kill them. If they did, most of the warriors here were unruly and unruly. Life was just like 8 words, indifferent to life and death. Fight if you don't like it. It was impossible for them to surrender obediently. They went into hiding in those dangerous places deep in. The thing was, they didn't have Luli's means. There were warriors and scouts everywhere. Where could they hide? The more than 50 old devils were found by Second Elder. There were more than 80 powerful warriors here, and Second Elder had a supreme weapon. When they found them, Second Elder told them to surrender unconditionally. Of course, the Gui race refused. One of the old devils even launched an attack. A chaotic battle broke out. After a chaotic battle, 12 of the more than 50 old devils were killed. 5 patriarchs of the Gui race perished. There weren't many old devils left. All of them were wounded. They scattered and fled. What else could they do? Wait for death here? The old devils had no sense of teamwork. All they cared about was survival. When one of them ran away, the others all ran. The remaining 43 old devils scattered in confusion. The Second Elder gave the order to disperse and pursue them, wanting to kill all of them. Second Elder was too angry. Also, he wanted to protect the prestige of the Gui race. The prestige of the Gui race had declined recently. So many old devils had caused trouble at the Gui race's territory. If they were not dealt with seriously, the Gui race would become the laughingstock of the Tiangang galaxy. In the future, there would be more old devils coming to the Gui race's territory to make trouble. The bigger the race was, the more they cared about their reputation. Their dignity could not be offended. They must be punished severely. This time, Second Elder made up his mind. He wanted to kill all the dozens of warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm. Some of them were patriarchs of allied races, but so what? No wonder the Gui race showed no mercy if they could do such evil things. Several powerful warriors formed a group to hunt down the old devils. Their lives were at stake. Naturally, they fought back with all they had. The battle became more violent. After more than 10 days, more than 20 powerful warriors infinitely close to the consummate realm were killed. 8 elders of the Gui race were also killed. Those old devils were not incompetent. In the face of certain death, they would risk their lives to drag someone down with them. The corpses of these powerful warriors were brought back to Chengdu. They were hung on the city walls, dripping with blood. The Gui race used this as a warning to the powerful warriors in Chengdu. It was also a warning to the entire Tiangang galaxy. This was the fate of those who dared to offend the Gui race's prestige. Second Elder returned. There were only about 20 powerful warriors left. There was no need for him to take action. He sent dozens of elders to hunt them down. It wouldn't be long before all the remaining old devils were killed. Who would have thought that after half a month, there would be no news of victory? Instead, after half a month, there would be news that 2 elders had been killed, and they had died very miserably, with their heads smashed to pieces. 5 days later, bad news came from the Hall of Patriarchs. 4 patriarchs' jade talismans of life were broken. This time, the scouts didn't find any traces of the 4 patriarchs fighting or their bodies. There were many powerful warriors of the Gui race that were infinitely close to the consummate realm. There were about 100 patriarchs on the surface. There were some older ones that didn't want to come out. There were more than 150 patriarchs that had been living in seclusion for years. Including the affiliated races, the Gui race had more than 300. Powerful warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm were hard to come by. They could not be achieved with resources. Losing so many at once made Second Elder's heart ache. His eyes reddened. He said with his teeth clenched, "Those bastards should all go to hell. Damn them. Send out my order." Patriarchs of the Chengdu city. Tear those old bastards into pieces. Second elder. A patriarch hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, "Could it be? Lu Li killed those patriarchs?" Third master. Chapter 35-22. The last 6 patriarchs were indeed killed by Lu Li. What was Lu Li's ultimate goal? He wanted to beat the Gui race into submission and ask for peace. In the end, they signed an agreement. The Gui race would give up on the carp race and allow the god of death to set up a branch in the Dipper galaxy. This was Lu Li's mission. Everything he did was in service of this goal. The Gui race was a super race. Unless their foundation was damaged, they would not give in for the sake of their dignity. Therefore, Lu Li had to find a way to destroy the foundation of the Gui race. What was the foundation of a super race? First, prestige. Without prestige, the Gui race would be attacked by a group. The Crimson Dragon clan and the Gui clan had become like this because their reputations had been swept to the ground. Second, powerful warriors. Without powerful warriors, the race would be like duckweed without root. It was only a matter of time before they were wiped out. Powerful warriors were hard to come by. Resources could not be cultivated easily. It required time and luck. Saint Emperors were not important. Warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion were the foundation of a super race. If the absolute completion were to die, then there would be nothing to worry about. The death of 1 or 2 Gui race would be a great blow to the Gui race, and their ranking would drop. If too many warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion were to die, then it would be a great loss for the Gui race. Not even the Gui race could afford it. Disrupting several universes and making the Gui race lose some resources and treasured lands was not a detriment to the foundation of the Gui race. Only by killing patriarchs of the Gui race could the Gui race be troubled. Therefore, Lu Li came out after half a year in the realm of magic. He made a decision after he had a look. This was the best situation. The patriarchs of the Gui race had spread out to hunt down those old demons. They were all in group. This was the best situation for Lu Li to launch a sneak attack. Lu Li didn't have too many concerns. He would kill a group first. According to Lu Li's speculation, the Gui race at the absolute completion would not make a move anytime soon. Only when he had killed too many patriarchs of the Gui race would they take action. Therefore, this time, he wanted to see if he could kill dozens of patriarchs of the Gui race. How could he miss such a godsend? Of course, he was careful. He had been using the traceless way. The Gang Tribe King had said that his traceless Tao should not be able to be seen through by the great perfection stage of the Gu race. Hence, as long as he continued to release his traceless Tao, he would be much safer. At this moment, he was walking through the wilderness in search of the Gui clan's elder. His speed was very fast. Although he had been constantly releasing the traceless Tao, his speed was comparable to that of an expert who was infinitely close to the consummate level. He quickly searched for his target. After flying for more than 6 hours, he heard an explosion in front of him. All right. Lu Li was delighted to hear the sounds of battle. Judging from the fluctuations of the battle, it was clearly a battle between powerhouses who were infinitely close to the completion level. He hurriedly leaned over. He didn't use his spiritual force to probe, just his eyes. Soon, he arrived near the battlefield and saw both sides fighting. Sure enough, the elders of the Gui clan were besieging the old devils. 5 elders besieging 3 old devils. The 3 old devils were in a miserable state. They were covered in injuries. 3 of the Gui elders were injured, and 1 of them was severely injured. However, they clearly had the upper hand, and it was only a matter of time before they killed the 3 old demons. Lu Li observed the battle on the side. If he joined in, the old devils would definitely win. He was thinking about how to keep the 5 patriarchs here. He decided to wait and see. The 3 old devils would put up a last-ditch struggle before they died. Maybe they could drag 1 or 2 patriarchs down with them. Luli watched from the sidelines leisurely. He was still observing the moves of the powerful warriors, trying to figure out how he should deal with them if they were to attack him. After an hour, the battle was coming to an end. The 3 old demons tried to break out of the encirclement and escape several times, but in the end they failed. The 3 old demons were seriously injured and could die in the next second. "Let's die together," one of the old devils roared with laughter. He ignored the spear of a powerful Gue clan warrior. He even took the initiative to rush forward and let the spear pierce through his body. He smashed at the head of the powerful warrior with a hideous grin. At the same time, his eyes glowed as if they were on fire. Surges of powerful soul energy surged into the eyes of the Gue clan patriarch. Boom! The Gue race elder's head exploded, but before he died, he poured his source energy into the spear. The terrifying energy exploded within the body of the Gue race elder. The Gue race elder's body directly exploded. The 2 supreme experts had perished together. Boom! On the other side, another old devil was killed as well. But the third one fought against 2 patriarchs of the Gue clan and killed the one who was seriously injured. The old devil was smashed away. Ha ha ha! That old devil was smashed into a pit, but he laughed wildly. While spitting out blood, he shouted, "I can take a patriarch of the Gue clan down with me before I die. I can go to the underworld with a smile." Die. A patriarch of the Gue clan flew over in rage. He swung his saber at the old devil's head. But at that moment the space around him began to tremble. Then a hand came at him. Flames expanded from that hand and engulfed him in an instant. Ah! The patriarch was shocked and stepped back out of instinct. But he was already swallowed by the flames. What was the use of stepping back? The other 2 patriarchs were taken aback as well. They were filled with killing intent. Luli sneaked away as soon as he made his move. As soon as he ran away, 2 horrifying attacks came at him. Luli snorted. The Gong Huangding came out and grew in size, suppressing one of the warriors. "Brother help me!" That patriarch shouted in shock after he was suppressed. The other patriarch was panicking. The patriarch that was swallowed by the flames had died. This patriarch was suppressed and he was seriously injured. At this rate they would all die here. Should he fight or run? The problem was, if he fought, he could not find Luli. Should he cut the air? If he ran, would he leave this patriarch behind? If this matter was known, he would be punished when he went back. While he was struggling, the space behind him began to tremble. Then a ball of flames expanded. Suddenly, he did not feel panic. Instead, he felt relieved. He didn't have to worry about whether to fight or run. He was going to die here. The flames were freaky. As soon as he was enveloped, he knew he would die for sure. There was nothing to worry about. "Brother The elder who was suppressed nearby let out a sorrowful howl. His howl was not only for Elder but also for himself. He knew that he was finished and no one could save him. How? That old demon was about to be roasted by the flames. He witnessed this with his eyes wide open. He didn't run away. He was seriously injured. He couldn't run even if he wanted to. Looking at Luli, who was flying toward the tripod, the old demon had only one thought in his mind. Luli's reputation was well-deserved. He could kill powerful warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm like killing dogs. Maybe Luli was the most powerful warrior below the consummate realm. P.S. Yesterday the old demon updated 4 chapters. But due to technical issues with the website, the update was delayed. You cannot blame him. Also, some chapters were blocked because they were out of bounds. The old demon will edit them in the near future. Third, please give us recommendation ticket. They are free and available every day. Everyone can vote for them every day. Chapter 35-23. After the patriarchs were killed, Luli put away the interspatial rings and relic weapons. Then he looked at the old man. The old man was shocked. He sensed the killing intent in Luli's eyes. He saw Luli flying over slowly. He must be going to kill him. The old man thought for a while and got up. He even dropped to one knee and shouted, "Lord Lu, you are mighty. Thank you for saving my life. I am Fanxing. In the future, if you need anything, just let me know. I will go through water and tread on fire for you." The old man was smart. He put Luli in the role of a benefactor and made his attitude clear. In this way, Luli might let him go. Luli thought about it and said coldly, "Don't tell anyone about me. No matter where you hide, I can kill you. You should know my tracking ability." Of course. The old devil heaved a sigh of relief inwardly and repeatedly said with a smile, "Milord is my benefactor. This old man will naturally obey Milord's words. Even if I die, this old man will not reveal it. Lord, I live in the Fan region. If you can get out, just send someone to tell me. I will do my best." "Okay." Luli waved his hand and was ready to leave. Suddenly, he thought of something. He turned around. The old man was startled again. Did Luli change his mind? Luli said after a pause, "Tell me that if you want to fight the patriarchs of the Gui race, you better spread out. Or find a way to disperse the patriarchs of the Gui race. I will help you. When we kill more than half of the powerful warriors here, you can gather together and kill your way out." Buzzing, the old man's eyes glowed. Luli's suggestion was tempting. They were trapped in this place, and all the entrances and exits were sealed. If they wanted to get out, they must crack the seal. It would take time. Before they could crack the seal, the powerful warriors of the Gui race would come. Therefore, if they wanted to get out, they must kill a group of powerful warriors of the Gui race. Without killing a group, they would not be able to get out. With Luli's help, it would be easy to kill the powerful warriors of the Gui race. Luli killed the 3 patriarchs like cutting watermelons. Okay. The old man said, "Lord, do you have a plan? Don't worry, we all want to get out alive. They will cooperate with you." No need for a plan. Naturally, Luli would not be so silly as to cooperate with these old demons. What if some of them joined forces with the Gui race? He would be walking into a trap. He said, "Just find a way to separate the patriarchs of the Gui race. The more the Gui race, the better." Gui race. The old freak nodded heavily. Luli's body suddenly disappeared in midair. No matter how hard the old freak tried, he couldn't find any clues. The old warrior exclaimed. Luli's art of concealment was indeed incredible. Perhaps no one would be able to find out unless they had reached the consummate realm. On the other side, the second elder and the others had already been dispatched. Countless scouts had also been mobilized to search for the remaining 20 or so old demons. Under Fanxing's communication, the group of old demons all gathered together. Fanxing told them about Luli's rescue and Luli's words. The old men were tempted. They realized that if they didn't think of a way, they would die. The problem was they were trapped. They couldn't get out and they couldn't defeat the Gui race. They would die sooner or later. Now, Luli had opened a window for them. Although this window didn't guarantee that they could escape alive, it gave them a glimmer of hope. There was no room for negotiation between them and the Gui clan. They could only kill their way out of this place. The old men discussed and decided to cooperate with Luli. They would try to separate the powerful Gui race. No matter what the outcome was, they wouldn't lose anything. The patriarchs of the Gui race were chasing them. They had to find a way to escape. It was normal to split them up. The old men discussed for a long time and came up with a strategy. They would form groups of 3 to lure the powerful Gui race away. With 3 in a group, it would be easier for them to coordinate with each other and escape. Their goal this time was clear. They wanted to distract the powerful Gui race. Their priority was to stay alive and avoid fighting the Gui race. Some of the patriarchs of the Gui race were split up. Patriarchs of the Gui race led by second patriarch had not arrived yet. After the old men took action, the patriarchs of the Gui race were lured away. They formed groups of 2 or 3 to track down the old men of the Gui race. Luli made up his mind. He knew he had a month at most. He must kill as many patriarchs of the Gui race as he could within this time. Otherwise, in a month, the warriors of the Gui race would be here. Luli moved quickly. Whenever he ran into 1 or 2 patriarchs of the Gui race, he would kill them. The traceless path that nobody could detect, the traceless path of Gong Huangding, the horrifying flames, and the powerful liquid of destruction. It was a piece of cake for Luli to kill the warriors of the Gui race, who were infinitely close to the complete Gui race. He had absorbed a lot of the black flames at the Flame King Mountain, and used a lot. About half of them were gone. When the black flames and the liquid of destruction were used up, he would lose 2 powerful means. But how could he conserve his strength under such circumstances? He must go all out in order to have a chance to complete this mission. He began his killing spree. Since the powerful warriors of the Gui race had been lured away, Luli was having a great time. In merely 9 days, he had killed 16 warriors that were infinitely close to the complete Gui race. In addition, the old man of the Gui race had killed 2 powerful warriors as well. Including the ones Luli had killed before, the number of Gui race warriors killed had reached more than 20. There were also the powerful warriors of the Gui race that had died in the battle with the old man. In total, the number had reached more than 30. Not even the major races could have so many warriors that were infinitely close to the complete Gui race. Second Patriarch and the others were on their way, and did not know what was going on. The Hall of Patriarchs of the Gui race was ringing. The chief patriarch of the Gui race could not sit still any longer. He asked in person what was going on and why so many patriarchs had died. The Hall of Patriarchs sent a message at once. The patriarchs of the Rong city did not know what was going on either. After Luli killed those powerful warriors, he put away the bodies and left nothing behind. The scouts did not know that so many patriarchs had passed away. The patriarchs of the Rong city had to send a message to second patriarch and ask him to respond to the Hall of Patriarchs and the chief patriarch. Second patriarch almost lost his mind when he received the message. He thought about it for an hour and made a foolish decision. He asked the patriarchs of the Rong city to send a message back to the Hall of Patriarchs, telling them that he could handle things here and asking the chief patriarch to give him another month. Usually, the 2 complete Gui race warriors would not get involved in the affairs of the Gui race. Second Patriarch was in charge. Second Patriarch was in a high position and he was powerful. He had a supreme weapon. Therefore, Second Patriarch did not want to send the Chief Patriarch out for no good reason. Wouldn't that be proof of his incompetence and failure? Second Patriarch wanted to have a try. If he could not kill the old warriors and Luli in a month, then he would have to ask for the Chief Patriarch's help. Chapter 35-24. The Patriarch of the Gui race wanted to take action, but he stayed put after hearing Second Patriarch's words. Second Patriarch was a person of high status in the race after all. It would be disrespectful if he were to take action now, even if he was doubtful that Second Patriarch could handle this matter. By the time Second Patriarch got close to the battlefield, Luli had killed 4 more patriarchs. The old demons were overjoyed. They only saw a glimmer of hope, but now it seemed like the sun had risen from the east. The window had become a door. The second elder had brought more than 50 experts with him. Some of them were supreme experts from the vassal clans. These 50 experts were all together and had not been separated. At the same time, Second Patriarch mobilized more than 100,000 scouts to look for the old demon's whereabouts. In fact, Second Patriarch also suspected that Luli was involved. Otherwise, how could those 20 old demons kill so many patriarchs? That being said, He had told the Hall of Patriarchs, so he had to hang on. This time, he was prepared to kill all the old demons at the cost of his life. He also had to find Luli and kill him. Report. A saint king of the later stage came to report, Second Patriarch, we found traces of the Rodan demons in the Water Dream Swamp. I think there are more than a dozen old demons hiding there. Let's go. Second Patriarch took out a map and saw that it wasn't too far away. He waved his hand and dozens of powerful warriors flew over in a grandiose manner. It only took them a couple of hours to arrive. There were many top-level scouts here who said they saw a group of old demons go in and didn't come out. Their scouts were all around and they were sure that the old demons didn't come out. Everyone, sneak in. Don't scare them away. Second Patriarch ordered. It wasn't hard for him to kill the old demons, but he was afraid that they would run away. The old demons all had their own skills. If they were allowed to escape, it would be difficult to chase them down. The dozens of powerful warriors sneaked in and scanned the surroundings with psychic power. There were some broken divine patterns in the Water Dream Swamp. It was hard to sneak in and they might accidentally touch the divine patterns. In order not to alarm the old demons inside, Second Patriarch ordered them to be extremely careful and not to touch the remaining divine patterns. After tens of thousands of miles, they had entered the depths of the Water Dream Swamp. The divine patterns here were even more concentrated. Second Elder and the others looked around in bewilderment. They had traveled for so long, so why hadn't they encountered those old devils? Suddenly, a beam of light shone from a swamp on the left. The light was like a fire serpent darting in all directions. Soon, the ground within 1,000 miles was lit up. The Second Elder roared in anger. Who was it that activated the divine inscription? The group of experts glanced at each other, all of them feeling very innocent. An elder scanned the area with his divine sense and said, "This doesn't seem to be an attack-type divine inscription? No, this is a teleportation divine inscription." Beams of light enveloped the experts one by one before they disappeared from where they were. Fear flashed in the Second Elder's eyes. He felt an inexplicable sense of unease, as if he could smell a conspiracy. He was also enveloped by the light. With a flash of white light, he appeared in a barren mountain thousands of miles north of the Water Dream Swamp. As soon as he came out, he immediately acted as if he was facing a great enemy, fearing that there would be an ambush nearby. He scouted the surroundings, but found that there were no martial artists nearby. Could it be that the teleportation divine rune already existed in the Water Dream Swamp? I have never heard of it. The Second Elder blinked his eyes in confusion. He quickly flew in midair and activated a jade talisman in his hand, calling the other experts to gather around him. At the same time, he found scouts nearby and asked them to send a message to the rest of the absolute experts, asking them to gather in the nearby cities. After flying for more than 2 hours, he met 2 elders. The 2 elders were also puzzled. They didn't know why they were suddenly teleported away. The Second Elder was also very puzzled. He brought the 2 elders to a nearby medium-sized city to gather. When they arrived at the city, more than 10 elders had already gathered there. The Second Elder was slightly relieved. It seemed like they had accidentally activated the teleportation divine inscription in the Water Dream Swamp. Soon, all the absolute experts would gather here. After waiting for 3 days, the Second Elder realized something was wrong. He realized that there were only over 30 absolute experts in this city. There were still over 20 absolute experts who had yet to arrive. According to the scouts' investigation, more than 10 absolute experts were actually in groups of 3 or 4. They were flying far away, and there were 10 elders who were nowhere to be seen. The Second Elder quickly asked the scouts to send a message, asking those absolute experts to come back and not to split up anymore in case they were falling into a trap. They waited for more than 1 day. A scout commander flew over and entered the city. He knelt on one knee in front of the second elder and said in a sorrowful tone, "Second elder, something has happened. There was a battle tens of millions of miles away in the west. When the scouts arrived, they found that 3 elders had already fallen." Swish, swish, swish. The second elder and the group of experts had a huge change in expression. Although only 3 elders had been killed, it meant that this was indeed the enemy's trap. There was still no news of the other 10 elders. It meant that they had probably perished. As expected, after another half a day, an elder from Rome City teleported over with bad news. The jade talismans of those 10 absolute experts had all shattered. This matter had already been reported back to the Hall of Elders. The Great Elder had given instructions that all the experts were not to act rashly. They were all to wait in this city and wait for his return. The second elder also did not dare to send any more messages back. He did not dare to say anything. This was because the number of elders and the absolute experts of the vassal clans who had died in battle had already reached 40 to 50. Among them, the Gui clan had lost more than 30 elders. This was already a huge loss. The Gui clan only had about 100 elders on the surface. Now 1/3 of them were dead. Moreover, there were still 11 elders outside. Who knew if something had happened? If they continued to die, it would shake the foundation of the Gui clan. Perfected experts could not be easily moved. The Gui clan occupied so many realms and had such a large territory. Without experts who were infinitely close to perfected guarding them, there would be a huge mess. Would they have to ask perfected experts to handle such a small matter? On the other hand, if too many elders were killed or injured, the prestige of the Gui clan would also decline. When the great clans saw that the Gui clan was so useless, their elders were so easily killed, then wouldn't they be able to easily destroy the Gui clan if they joined forces? Would they divide up their territories? The other clans that were as powerful as the Gui clan would look down on the Gui clan. In the long run, the Gui clan would continue to decline and eventually be wiped out. Without prestige, everyone would look down on you and bully you. Therefore, the great clans paid special attention to their reputation. Their dignity could not be challenged. This time, the dignity of the Gui clan was not only challenged, but so many of their patriarchs had died. If they did not act with caution, then the foundation of the Gui clan would be shaken. The Gui clan might go into decline or even be wiped out. 3 days later, more bad news came. The patriarchs that went after the Gui clan were killed. Scouts found traces of fire near the battlefield, which proved that Luli was the culprit. Second Patriarch sent out many scouts to find the remaining patriarchs and tell them to come back. None of the patriarchs in the city were allowed to go out as well. They had to wait for the chief patriarch to come. Chapter 35-25. Boom, in the wild. A warrior that was close to the consummate level was killed in one move. Luli put away the tripod. Several powerful warriors nearby came over. Fan Tsing was here. He cupped his fists and said, "Lord, you are impressive. You killed another Gui so easily. Lord, I think there is another patriarch of the Gui race nearby. Should we go and kill him?" "Never mind." Luli shook his head and said, "Fan Tsing, I will go and crack the pattern. Gather up and wait for my message. When I crack it, come with me at once." Fan Tsing was surprised. Luli had killed so many powerful Gui race warriors. Second Patriarch must be looking for them all over the world. If Luli were to crack the pattern now, he would be walking into a trap. Once the pattern was cracked, the powerful Gui race warriors would be alerted. When Second Patriarch came, wouldn't Luli and the others all die? Don't worry about that. Find a place to hide. Or, you can work together and kill those patriarchs of the Gui race. Luli snuck away at once after he sent the message. He believed that the patriarchs of the Gui race were scared out of their wit. For a while, they would not dare to split up or leave the city. It was time for Luli to leave after killing so many patriarchs of the Gui race. The consummate level Gui race warriors were coming. Luli must take the risk. He flew hundreds of millions of miles away, and then flew up to find an exit. He told Blood Fairy to go out while he used the traceless principle. Under the traceless principle, not even the consummate level Gui race warriors could detect him. Therefore, he was not afraid even if the Gui race warriors were here. Blood Fairy went to the exit to investigate. Because Blood Fairy had not deciphered the divine inscriptions, the Saint Emperor guarding outside did not sense her presence. After an hour, Blood Fairy said, "Master, the pattern is a bit complicated. It may take 2 hours." 2 hours? Luli was overjoyed. 2 hours was not a long time. It would take an hour to fly from that small city. By the time the powerful warriors noticed, they would send a message to the R city, and then the R city would send a message. By the time second patriarch came, the pattern would have been cracked. "Crack it," Luli ordered. Blood Fairy began to crack the formation. The moment the formation was broken, the divine inscriptions would ripple. The 2 Saint Emperors guarding outside sensed it, and hurriedly crushed the jade talismans in their hands. The elders guarding Rong City immediately sensed it. Although there were many supreme experts on their side, most of them couldn't be mobilized by them. Previously, the second elder had damaged the harmony between them. If they mobilized a few of their own elders, they might be killed. Therefore, the guardian elder could only send a message to the second elder and let him handle it. When the second elder received the message, he was in a dilemma. Under normal circumstances, they would rush over as soon as they received such a message. However, he had brought so many elders with him, and almost half of them had died. The great elder had ordered them not to act rashly. If they were to leave the city and fall into a trap again, and another dozen or so elders were killed, then even the second elder would not be able to shoulder the responsibility. After thinking for a while, the second elder still couldn't make up his mind. He could only gather all the experts together to discuss whether or not they should go and take a look. The group of patriarchs argued fiercely. Some of them said that they must go. If the formation was broken and the Asmodeans escaped, then the Guis would be disgraced. The Asmodeans' hands were stained with the blood of patriarchs of the Guis. If they escaped, the reputation of the Guis would plummet. But some patriarchs refused to go. They said that it was a fact that so many patriarchs had died. There were tens of millions of scouts in this universe. How could they hide the fact? The chief patriarch had given the order, and that was the highest order. If they went out and were ambushed, then they would be sinners of the Guis. After half an hour of noise, a scout suddenly came to report a piece of news. The 20 or so old devils had gathered together and were flying high up into the sky. It was very likely that they wanted to escape from this plane. Hearing this, second elder could not sit still. He ordered all the powerful warriors to go after the Asmodeans at once. They must not be allowed to escape. Second elder thought that there were more than 30 powerful warriors, and he had the supreme weapon. As long as he was careful, he would not be ambushed. Could Luli build a rune in the air to teleport them away? Second elder was right. The problem was that he did not expect that Blood Fairy could solve the formation so quickly. Normally, it would take several days to solve the formation. But that was for the average Asmodeans. Blood Fairy's attainment in runes had already surpassed the average warriors, who were close to the complete realm. Therefore, when second elder arrived at the entrance with a group of powerful warriors, he saw that the rune at the entrance had been broken. Floating in the air were 2 Saint Emperors and dozens of warriors. Luli and the Asmodeans were nowhere to be found. According to the scouts monitoring nearby, the Asmodeans had escaped from this entrance. The second elder was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He roared a few times in a row, shaking the surrounding space slightly. The nearby elders were also incomparably furious. Luli and the Asmodeans had killed many Asmodeans and looted their resources. They had killed so many Asmodeans and warriors. How could they run away so easily? When the news spread out, the entire Asmodeans would become the laughing stock of the region of Dipper. Luli did leave. He left with the Asmodeans. They flew to a place hundreds of millions of miles away. Luli showed up in the void. The Asmodeans bowed to Luli at once. They were advanced in age, and many of them were masters of their own territories. But they were convinced by Luli. "Thank you, Lord Lu." Fan Sing took the lead in bowing and said, "I'll say it again. If my lord needs anything, just send a message. We will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire." The other Asmodeans echoed. None of them wanted to kill Luli and ask the Asmodeans for rewards. They were sworn enemies of the Asmodeans. If they could kill Luli, the Asmodeans would not reward them. Instead, the Asmodeans would kill them. What was more, they were stunned by Luli's unpredictable skills. None of them was sure that they could kill Luli. Luli waved his hand. "You don't have to do anything. I only have one request." Fan Sing bowed. "Lord Lu, please. Spread rumors and do everything you can to hurt the Asmodeans." Luli said emotionlessly, "You and the Asmodeans are sworn enemies. From now on, I will continue to fight against them. I hope you can all lend me a hand. Make the Asmodeans suffer, by any means necessary." Of course. Fan Sing and the other Asmodeans looked at each other and nodded. If the Asmodeans are not wiped out or if they are not beaten into submission, they will come to us for revenge. We will do everything we can to make the Asmodeans suffer. It will be the best if we can wipe out the Asmodeans. Lord Lu. Fan Sing said after some thoughts, "Let's lay low for a while. I think the perfect Asmodeans of the Asmodeans are coming out. They will be in danger if they run into you." Perfect Asmodeans are strong but they want to find me? In their dreams. Luli snorted. He vanished in midair and floated away. The Asmodeans looked at each other in silence. One of them murmured, "If not even the perfect Asmodeans can find him, then this will be fun. Maybe the entire Asmodeans will be wiped out because of him." Chapter 35-26. Luli and the others had run away. The blockade was lifted soon. It was pointless for so many powerful warriors and armies to stay here. Staying here would only cause destruction. Therefore, when the Chief Patriarch came and asked about the situation, the Chief Patriarch ordered the blockade to be lifted. News of what had happened in this world quickly spread. Because it had been sealed, the outside world didn't know what had happened inside. With so many scouts here, the news could not be kept a secret. As soon as the blockade was lifted, the news spread out. The entire Dipper galaxy was in an uproar. They did not expect that so many powerful warriors had died. Those were warriors that were close to the absolute completion, not regular saint emperors. The death of one meant one less. Powerful warriors of this level were hard to come by. For all the major races, they were of utmost importance. Many so-called major races only had 3 or 4 warriors that were close to the absolute completion. Even so, they could dominate an area. In other words, during this time, Luli had killed the most powerful warriors of a so-called major race. The Guam race secretly asked some races to spread the word that not too many patriarchs of the Guam race were killed. The outside world was full of rumors. This time, the Guam race killed many powerful warriors as well. Some unruly old demons were killed by the Guam race. A month later, the rumors were proven wrong. Many bodies were found outside a city of a major race. Most of the bodies had been burned, and it was hard to tell who they belonged to. But judging from the bones, it was easy to tell that they were warriors that were close to the absolute completion. Some bodies were not burned and could be identified. Dozens of bodies were piled up in a row outside the city. On a boulder next to the bodies were carved words, Guam race, bring back the bodies of your patriarchs and bury them properly, Luli. The place where the bodies were was not the Guam race, but one controlled by a major race. This was outside a big city with many warriors coming and going. When the news spread out, many warriors swarmed out from the city to witness this grand occasion. There were more than 30 bodies here. Most of them were killed by Luli and some were killed by the old demons. Luli collected them as well just to create this sensational scene. It was a sensational scene. When the news spread out, many scouts and warriors came to investigate. Some powerful warriors that knew patriarchs of the Guam race went to investigate and found that many were patriarchs of the Guam race. Many scouts that escaped from that universe and the old demons began to spread the news as well. They confirmed that Luli had killed dozens of patriarchs of the Guam race. The news became more exaggerated. It was said that Luli fought against dozens of warriors that were close to the absolute completion all by himself and killed them. Luli had reached the consummate realm, and his abilities were formidable. There was another rumor. Luli fought against the chief patriarch of the Guam race for several days and he defeated the chief patriarch of the Guam. Some patriarchs of the Guam race tried to stop him but were killed by Luli. Later on, the rumor became more and more outrageous. It was said that Luli was actually a powerful warrior from the celestial region. He had offended a realm king in the celestial region and was forced to come to the chaotic starfield. It was said that Luli was actually a powerful warrior of the realm of chaos who was forced to come to the chaotic star region because he had offended a realm king. Otherwise, how could a warrior of the Emperor realm kill warriors that were close to the absolute completion? How could a warrior of the Emperor realm come and go with ease under the pursuit of billions of warriors? How could a warrior of the Emperor realm leave that universe when a warrior of the absolute completion took action? The rumor seemed to make sense. It was ridiculous that a warrior of the Emperor realm could kill a warrior that was close to the absolute completion. It would be incredible if a warrior of the Emperor realm could kill a Saint Emperor, let alone a warrior that was close to the absolute completion. The rumor became more and more unbelievable. Later on, it was said that the Guam race was on the verge of collapse and several super races were ready to join forces to destroy the Guam race and divide up their territory. Many of the rumors were spread by the old demons. They were powerful warriors that were very close to the absolute completion. When the war broke out, they were still in that universe. Therefore, their words carried weight. Many warriors believed it and the news spread quickly. Soon, the entire Dipper Star region was talking about it. The Guam race was enraged. They wanted to refute the rumor but nobody would believe them. Previously, when they spread the rumor, Luli proved them wrong. Now, many races didn't believe them anymore. The Guam race's reputation was tarnished as well. It used to be a super race with an illustrious reputation. The Guam race didn't even dare to talk about it for fear of revenge. Now, many cities in the Dipper Star region were laughing at the Guam race. They even made fun of the clan leader and chief patriarch. For the super clans, reputation was extremely important. Not only had the Guam race's reputation been tarnished, but they had also suffered a great loss. The clan leader of the Guam race was enraged. He dismissed second patriarch and asked chief patriarch to take charge of the hunt for Luli. It was pointless to explain now. Instead, it would make the other races laugh at the Guam race even more. The only way out was to kill Luli and use his blood to wash away the shame of the Guam race. Also, they could not afford to waste too much time. The longer they waited, the greater the damage to the Guam race's reputation would be. It was a pity that Luli disappeared after he threw out those bodies. The Guam race mobilized many forces to track him down but to no avail. What was more, the last time Luli was seen was in a universe controlled by a super race. That race was as powerful as the Guam race. The Guam race could not mobilize a large number of scouts to search in a universe controlled by that race. What was more, could the average scouts find Luli? The clan leader of the Guam race was doubtful. Half a month, 1 month, 2 months passed. There was no news about Luli. He seemed to have vanished from the Dipper Star region. The chief patriarch of the Guam race was in charge of tracking Luli in person. Even though he was a consummate warrior, he was not omnipotent. The chief patriarch was all by himself. The Dipper Star region was a vast place. Where could he find Luli? Luli might be hiding in a universe controlled by some major races. Were they supposed to go to those universes to search? Those super races were not something the Guam race could afford to provoke. As time went on, the Guam race's reputation was worsening. The Guam race could not do anything to Luli. A super race could not do anything to a warrior. It was proof that the Guam race was useless. Whatever the Guam race said was pointless. Facts spoke louder than words. Another half a month later, a piece of news came out that completely ruined the Guam race's reputation. A universe controlled by the Guam race was attacked. A powerful warrior close to the consummate realm was killed. A small city was wiped out. Luli even left a message. If the Guam race continues to be my enemy, I will sweep across the cities until all the Guam race and their affiliated races are wiped out. Luli. The message was not important. What was important was that Luli recorded the scene of the massacre in the city and the destruction of the Guam race's warrior that was close to the consummate realm on a crystal. He made tens of thousands of copies and threw them into a major city of a major race. In the image, Luli was standing in a small city with arrogance. Chapter 35:27. The Gui race could not do anything to Luli while Luli could kill the Gui race. It was clear who was superior. The reputation of the Gui race was already damaged. After Luli's actions, the reputation of the Gui race was even worse. It had reached the lowest point in history. The master of the Gui race held a meeting with the chief patriarch and all the other patriarchs. They believed that if this matter was not handled with caution, the Gui race could be wiped out, not to mention weakening. This was not an exaggeration. According to the information sent by the Gui race's spies in the major races, many major races had held several secret meetings. Some had even sent messengers to communicate with each other. In particular, several major races nearby were having secret discussions. Several major races nearby the Gui race were weaker than the Gui race and were often bullied by the Gui race. Once those major races united, the Gui race would be in danger. Kill the Gui race while they were weak. This was the time when the Gui race's reputation was at its lowest. Once they were under attack, their allies would not help. They would choose to stay on the sidelines for fear of getting themselves into trouble. Therefore, the Gui race must deal with this matter as soon as possible, or else the situation would be unimaginable. After a day of meetings, the Gui race came up with two options. They could either try to kill Luli as soon as possible or negotiate with Luli. If they could kill Luli, they would be able to deter others and restore the prestige of the Gui race. But where could they find Luli? That being said, the one at the Gui race's level should be able to find Luli. However, Chief Patriarch had been searching for Luli but could not find him. There were so many universes and the world was boundless. Luli could be hiding in other universes. Where the hell would they go to find Luli? To negotiate, they could satisfy some of Luli's demands and then put on a show to prove that they had defeated Luli. They could also ask Luli to make a statement to salvage some of their reputation. When the Gui race went back to defense, they could work together and survive this crisis. However, to negotiate with Luli would mean that the Gui race had lost and so many powerful warriors had died in vain. The proud Gui race could not let it go. At least, most of the patriarchs did not agree with this option. Of course, some of the patriarchs suggested using negotiation to lure Luli over and kill him. Or, they could negotiate for now and then send a Gui race's level to assassinate Luli to avenge the fallen patriarchs. Neither road was easy to walk, and they quarreled for a few days. Another piece of news arrived, infuriating the Gue clan. One of the Gue clan's important resource lands had been attacked, and the 2 elders guarding there had been killed. Although the 2 elders' lifespans were about to run out, it was still a great loss and humiliation. In the end, the Gue clan king and the great elder made up their minds. He and the great elder would move out personally, along with all the scouts. They would try to find Luli within half a year. If they couldn't find Luli, then they would negotiate with him. The decision was approved by all the patriarchs. They were filled with hope. It shouldn't be difficult to find Luli with 2 perfect realm warriors. Recently, Luli had been attacking continuously, which meant that Luli must be in a universe under their control. Warriors of the perfect realm could hide in heaven and earth. If they did not show themselves, no one would know that they were here. Therefore, if a consummate warrior were to track down Luli, then as long as he could reach Luli's side, there was a good chance that he would be able to find Luli. Third Patriarch stayed at the base camp while Family Patriarch and Chief Patriarch went to different universes to search for Luli. During this time, Luli was indeed in a universe under the control of the Gue clan. He planned to launch continuous attacks to diminish the Gue clan's prestige. In the end, the major races nearby would unite and destroy the Gue clan. Even the Asmodean that escaped with Luli had been spreading rumors. He had been running around to encourage some major races to work together to destroy the Gue clan. Luli, on the other hand, needed to use the death of one powerful warrior of the Gue clan to strike at the Gue clan so that the major races nearby would take action. The Drum region. This was a universe under the control of the Gue clan. At the moment, there should be 7 or 8 powerful warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect realm. Some of them were serving patriarchs, and some were probably near the end of their lifespans. They were guarding in some places. Luli walked around in this universe, looking for a chance and a target. He knew that the current situation was dangerous and he could not act rashly. The perfect realm warriors of the Gue clan might be searching for him everywhere. Therefore, he must pick a target, end the fight as soon as possible and leave at once. A few days later, he found a place with resources. It was far away from the city and well hidden. There was only one warrior that was infinitely close to the perfect realm guarding this place, but there were tens of thousands of warriors. The security was strict. There were runes everywhere. This must be an important place with resources. Luli checked carefully but found nothing strange. After a while, he was ready to take action. He avoided the runes and snuck into the hall in the valley. He found the warrior that was infinitely close to the perfect realm. When he was at the gate, Luli frowned. He remembered something. There were so many warriors guarding the valley. Why was there only one patriarch? At first, Luli had thought that this patriarch was the kind that was nearing the end of his life. How come this patriarch was so young? A young warrior that was infinitely close to the perfect realm should be the serving patriarch. A patriarch guarding here was like delivering himself to his doorstep. Leave. Luli flew away like a ghost. He didn't dare to kill the patriarch anymore. He could have killed this patriarch if he just threw out some flames. Luli's cautiousness saved his life. 4 days after Luli left, a man came out from the hall. It was the chief patriarch of the Gue clan. Chief Patriarch's eyebrows were long and he seemed to be in a bad mood. The patriarch sitting in the hall opened his eyes, stood up and said, "Chief Patriarch, we have been waiting for so many days. Maybe Luli is not in this universe. Waiting like this is not a solution." Chief Patriarch sighed in worry. He did not know that Luli came to the valley 4 days ago but did not do anything. Chief Patriarch thought about it with a frown and said, "Let's wait for a few more days. Maybe he will bite the bait. We have to wait for him now." Report, right at that moment a Saint Emperor flew in. He dropped to one knee in front of Chief Patriarch and said with sorrow, "Chief Patriarch, the field Willow Valley is under attack. 2 senior warriors were killed and over 10,000 warriors were slaughtered. All the herbs in the valley were harvested. "Bastard!" Chief Patriarch bellowed. He flew away like an eagle toward the field Willow Valley at a horrifying speed. It would take an average Saint Emperor more than 10 days to fly over. However, Chief Patriarch arrived in half a day. There were scouts all over the valley, and there were scouts all over the surroundings as well. Chief Patriarch did not reveal himself. Instead, he merged with nature and tried to sense the surroundings. He searched with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles, but to no avail. Either Luli was gone or he could not find Luli. The two conclusions made Chief Patriarch even more furious and frustrated. He wouldn't be so upset even if there were 2 or 3 warriors at the absolute peak of the Gui clan. Luli was elusive. Nobody could find him. The Gui clan had so many universes, so many resources, so many cities, but they only had 2 at the absolute peak of the Gui clan. How could they take care of all of them? Waiting for a heir to come to them was a good idea. The problem was that they had to wait for too many universes. The heir was too cunning. At this rate, the Gui clan would be doomed sooner or later. Chapter 35-28. For the next 3 months, the clan leader and the chief patriarch wandered around. They would guard some cities and locations of resources from time to time. Unfortunately, they could not capture Luli even once. Luli went on to destroy 5 locations in 3 months. Once again, he destroyed 4 locations of resources and a city of the Guis. He killed 4 warriors that were close to the complete perfection realm, more than 100 Saint Kings and hundreds of thousands of warriors. Luli's actions were irregular. This time, he would go to a region. The next time, he would go to an affiliated region of the Guis. The next time, he went to the main region of the Guis and slaughtered a city. As Luli carried out his actions, more and more rumors came out, none of which were favorable to the Guis. During this time, the Guis had become the laughing stock of the other races in the Tiangang galaxy. The entire galaxy was talking about the Guis. They were talking about how Luli destroyed another city of the Gui race. How many patriarchs were killed? How many tables did the clan leader of the Guis smash, and how many scouts did he kill to vent his anger? Usually, warriors of smaller races would not even mention the name of the clan leader of the Guis for fear that the Guis would hear about it and seek trouble. Now, even a warrior of the 5th or 6th tribulation was talking nonsense in a tavern in the city. He said that the clan leader of the Guis was useless, that the chief patriarch of the Guis was useless, that he could not even capture or kill an Emperor Realm warrior. The major races near the Guis were getting closer. They had been plotting for a long time but never had the courage to take action. The major races had 2 warriors at the complete perfection realm in total. They had more warriors that were close to it than the Guis. That being said, the Guis had been famous in the Tiangang galaxy for many years. The other races were terrified of the Guis. What was more, the Guis had 2 powerful allies, which were also super races. If the 2 allies were to take action as well, the Guis would not be able to escape destruction. Therefore, the Guis had been waiting for a chance. At the same time, they were secretly contacting the 2 super races. As long as the 2 super races supported them, they could take action. However, the 2 super races had not given a clear answer. The Guis had to bide their time. Luli was still making a scene. As time went on, the Guis' reputation was getting uglier. The Guis had more and more chances. Patriarchs of the Guis were being killed and the Guis were being weakened. This was good news for the Guis. They reckoned that the 2 super clans were also waiting. After all, the conditions they had given were that they would occupy the Gui clan's territory and would have to offer a huge amount of resources every year. Luli, kill more of them. It would be better if you can kill a clan leader or a chief patriarch of the Ru race. Many powerful warriors of the major races were praying to themselves. If Luli could really kill a warrior at the consummate realm, they would take actions right away and wipe out the Duans. Of course, they knew it was impossible. Luli was so capable. Why would he do this? The Gui race had long been destroyed by him. The morale of the Gui race was extremely low. Many elders did not dare to leave the main camp. Even some of the older elders who were nearing the end of their lifespans wanted to leave. Although they were about to die, they could still live for hundreds or thousands of years. They didn't want to die without knowing why. The chief patriarch and chief patriarch were losing their minds. Day and night they searched for Luli all over the world. But they couldn't even see Luli's shadow. They were starting to wonder, could it be that they couldn't see through Luli's art of stealth? Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to not even catch a glimpse of his shadow after tracking him for several months. If they really couldn't see through Luli, then what was the point of tracking him? Recently, they had been receiving information that several major races nearby had been conspiring. Patriarchs of high statuses would come out in person and gather together. Covert as it was, the Gui race's spies still managed to get the information out. The chief patriarch and chief patriarch of the Gui race were panicking. Their allies had been behaving ambiguously. The Gui race asked the two allies to send over patriarchs and scouts to help, but the two allies found excuses to decline. This worried the Gui race. If the major races nearby were to unite and attack, the Gui race would not be far away from extinction. Even if the Gui race survived, it would be greatly weakened. The Gui race had occupied a large territory. They occupied a lot of territory. Once their vitality was greatly damaged, it would attract the attention of countless evil wolves. Countless large clans would swarm over and finally kill the Gui clan. At that time, the Gui clan would not be able to retreat even if they wanted to. 2 more months. The chief patriarch and chief patriarch of the Gui race met up. They had a discussion and decided to pursue Luli for another 2 months. If they could not find Luli by then they would have to make peace with Luli. The Gui race would have to retreat. Also, they had to talk to their allies as soon as possible. They had to give up some of their interests in order to stabilize the alliance. As long as the Gui race could hang on and rest for a while, the Gui race would be able to rise again sooner or later. The lost prestige could be made up over time, and the patriarchs that had passed away could be nurtured. As long as the territory and the race were still there, everything else would be fine. The two warriors at the absolute completion of the Gui race went through one universe after another without a moment's rest. They did not wait around. They just wanted to try their luck and see if they could run into Luli. The more they searched, the more likely they were to run into Luli. Soon, a month passed by. They still could not find Luli. But during this time, Luli did not take any actions. He had quieted down and was hiding in some corner, observing coldly. The chief patriarch and chief patriarch of the Gui race were about to lose their mind. They were exhausted after a month of frantic searching. Physical exhaustion did not matter, but mental exhaustion. Luli had indeed gone into hiding. He was not in the Dharma realm. Instead, he had gone to a universe of a major race nearby. He sensed danger. He could not go on for fear that something might go wrong. As time went on, the reputation of the Gui race would deteriorate. He could afford to wait, but the Gui race could not. Another month passed. The chief patriarch and chief patriarch of the Gui race gave up. Right at that moment, Luli happened to attack a place with abundant resources. The chief patriarch of the Gui race had lost interest in going after Luli. He knew that he would not be able to find Luli. Apart from wasting time, it would be pointless. The chief patriarch of the Gui race contacted the scouts of the god of death directly and told Luli that he wanted to talk. He wanted Luli to stop at once. The god of death sent out some top-level scouts to lurk in the Dipper galaxy. The Gui race could not find Luli, but they did find some scouts of the god of death. The Gui race did not capture the scouts. Instead, they kept an eye on them to see if they were in contact with Luli. It just so happened that the scouts of the Gui race had found the scouts of the god of death and relayed the chief patriarch of the Gui race's message. The scouts did not dare to be careless. They passed on the message to Clan Master Lu, who sent the message to Luli through the special channel of the god of death. A few days later, Luli received the message. He was relieved. After such a long time and taking such a risk, he had finally beaten the Gui race into submission. Using his own strength to subdue a super clan, and at his level at that, it was probably unprecedented, right? Chapter 35-29. Since the Guam race wanted to negotiate, Luli could not go on. He stopped at once and left the universe of the Guam race. He chose to go to a nearby universe of a super race to conduct the negotiation remotely. Luli was not stupid. He would not go there in person. What if he was killed by a complete warrior of the Guam race? He would not meet with Commander Lu either. Since the Guam race could find the scouts of the god of death, then the scouts would not be safe. Luli could not meet with Commander Lu. He asked Blood Fairy to build a special messaging altar for the god of death. Luli sent a message back to the god of death and asked him to contact Commander Lu. It was troublesome but safe. As long as the Guam race could not locate him, as long as he was alive, then the Guam race would have to give in and accept their terms. Emperor Li and Emperor Mo were thrilled when Luli sent the message. Emperor Mo wanted to come in person. Naturally, he wanted to experience such an exaltation. However, Luli told Emperor Mo not to come, fearing that the Guam race would cause trouble. Anyway, Luli could negotiate remotely with Commander Lu. Commander Lu asked the Guam race to come to a city of a major race, the Happy City. The Guam race attached great importance to this. They sent 3rd Patriarch and 4th Patriarch to host the negotiation in person. In a castle, 3rd Patriarch was upset when he saw that there was only a Saint King at the later stage. He shouted angrily, "Where is Luli? Why is he not here? Didn't we ask him to come?" Commander Lu answered with a smile, "Emperor Lu has something to deal with. He asked me to negotiate on his behalf." "Where is the leader of the god of death?" 3rd Patriarch was unhappy. "I am the 3rd Patriarch of the Guam race. I am in charge of all the affairs of the Guam race. The god of death must send someone of equal status to me to negotiate." "I am sorry." Commander Lu bowed. "The other leaders are busy as well. It will take them at least half a year to come from the chaotic universe region. Are you sure you want to wait for half a year? How dare you?" 3rd Patriarch was enraged by Commander Lu's sarcasm. He was a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate level and the 3rd Patriarch of the Guam race. He had a high status and a great reputation. He did not even care about the leader of the god of death, let alone this Commander Lu. How could a Saint King laugh at him? He immediately said with a murderous look, "Aren't you afraid of death?" Hall Master Lu did not mind at all. He beamed and said, "Of course I'm afraid of death. However, our death god can easily find a bunch of people at my level. Thus, killing me would not do the Gui race any good. Instead, it would bring about many disadvantages. Our Lu Huang does not have a good temper." Courting death. A puny Saint King actually dared to mock them time and time again. The 3rd Elder's killing intent immediately surged out, causing the entire castle to turn into an icehouse. If it weren't for the fact that the castle had activated its divine inscriptions, the experts of the city would have been alerted long ago. Patriarch 4 stopped Patriarch 3, who was about to lose his temper. Patriarch 4 said, "You can represent Luli, can you represent death?" Hall Master Lu nodded seriously and said, "Of course. This is a message from our death god headquarters. Please take a look." Hall Leader Lu handed over a letter. The 4th Elder took it and glanced at it before handing it over to the 3rd Elder. The third elder glanced at it and coldly snorted. What can this letter represent? What if your death god and Luli don't agree with us? Then there is no other way. Hall Master Lu shrugged his shoulders and said, if you want our headquarters to send messengers over, you will have to wait for at least half a year. If you want to wait for half a year, I don't mind. Let's talk after that. Half a year. Patriarch 4 put on a bitter smile. The death god could afford to delay, but the Gui race could not. If they could not reach an agreement with Luli soon, then they would not have the time to ally with their allies to suppress the major races nearby. They would not have the time to reorganize their internal affairs and stabilize their race. Patriarch 4 thought about it and said, okay, let's get started. Hall Master Lu nodded and said, okay. You can state your demands first and then we will state ours. Let's see if we can reach an agreement. Patriarch 4 took out a piece of paper and said, first of all, Luli must leave the Dipper Star region and promise that he will never set foot in the Dipper Star region again. He must issue a notice to apologize to us. Second, your death god must issue a notice to admit his mistake, apologize and compensate us for our losses. Third, your death god will leave the Dipper Star region forever. In exchange, the Gui race will not pursue this matter, and will not attack the death god again. We also promise that we will not attack the headquarters of the death god. The conditions were simple and clear. There were 3 in total. The death god had made a promise as well. Hall Master Lu smiled after listening. He blinked his eyes and asked, are you serious? What do you mean? Patriarch 3 glared at him and said, are we here for fun? We 2 patriarchs have traveled thousands of miles just to have some tea with a saint king like you? I am a saint king, but I have many things to deal with. The smile froze on Commander Lu's face. He stood up and said, if these are your conditions, then I think we can call an end to this negotiation. I am afraid that if Emperor Lu learns about these conditions, he will give the order to cut off my head. Emperor Lu has a bad temper. There is no room for negotiation. You are not sincere. There is no need to talk. My lords, please take a seat. I will leave now. Once he finished speaking, Commander Lu walked out without a trace of pretense. He looked like he was about to leave. The 2 patriarchs exchanged a bitter look. They also knew that these conditions were a little too much. However, in a negotiation, shouldn't both parties first set out a bunch of conditions that were beneficial to them and then slowly wrangle before finally reaching a consensus? The death god, the negotiator, did not even try to negotiate or mention the death god's conditions. Instead, he wanted to call an end to the negotiation. This was not normal. The 2 patriarchs became awkward. Patriarch 4 hesitated for a moment, coughed twice and said, Hall Master Lu, please wait a moment. Hall Master Lu had already walked to the door, and was about to open the divine patterns to leave. He turned and said, Fourth Elder, do you have any other instructions? Patriarch 4 smiled awkwardly and said, We have indeed come with sincerity. If you have any requests, you can mention them. If you are not satisfied with our conditions, you can also rebut them. Of course, we cannot compromise on our principles. Otherwise, there is no way we can negotiate. Commander Lu narrowed his eyes and asked, Then what are your principles? Let me see if we can accept your conditions in principle. If we can continue to negotiate. If we can't, then there's no need to negotiate anymore, right? What? The 2 patriarchs did not expect Commander Lu to be so difficult to deal with. If they were to state their bottom line, then wouldn't their trump card be exposed? By then, the Death God would be able to negotiate however he wanted. This Saint Emperor was not that powerful, but he was good at negotiation. Of course, the 2 patriarchs knew very well that the Saint Emperor was so good at negotiation because he was fearless. Luli could afford to stall, but the Gui race could not. Therefore, Luli was not in a hurry to negotiate. The Gui race could not kill him. Third Patriarch. Chapter 35:30. After a moment of silence, Patriarch 3 and Patriarch 4 said, "Let's state your terms first." Master Lu did not waste any more time. He said frankly, "We have 4 terms. First, you announce that you will abandon the Dang race and promise that you will no longer be our enemy. Second, from now on, you must not attack our branches in the Tiangang galaxy. You must do your best to protect them. If something goes wrong, you must help us suppress it. Third, we will build a Hall of Valor in a base to pay tribute to our fallen warriors and warriors. You must send a patriarch to kneel and kowtow. Fourth, you must compensate us with hundreds of trillion celestial stones or the same amount of treasures. In return, Lu Huang will leave immediately and will not attack the Dang race again." The terms of the God of Death and the Dang race seemed to be similar. What was more, both sides agreed not to attack each other, which was quite funny. Hearing the terms, Patriarch 3 and Patriarch 4 turned ghastly pale. Once again, Patriarch 3 was filled with killing intent. He slapped the table and said, "This is outrageous! This is outrageous! You, the God of Death, attacked our affiliated race, the Dang race. How many patriarchs and warriors have you killed, and how many resources and lands have you destroyed? How dare you make such outrageous demands? I will give you a piece of advice. If you push us too far, the Dang race will send out a powerful warrior and destroy the headquarters of the God of Death. All of you will die without a burial place." Even though Master Lu was only a Saint Emperor, he was not frightened by Patriarch 3's killing intent. He even ignored Patriarch 3. He knew one thing clearly. Lu told the God of Death to pass this message to him. The fact that the Dang race had chosen to negotiate meant that their situation had deteriorated to a point where the survival of their race might be threatened. Otherwise, they would not have asked for peace. The super races were proud. They had dominated for 1,000,000 years. They had always been the bully and no other race dared to provoke them. If they had a choice, how could they put down their pride and dignity to negotiate? Therefore, Hall Chief Lu was very calm in his heart. The third elder was obviously playing the role of the bad guy. One hit and one pull, this was a negotiation technique. Master Lu turned to Patriarch 4, who said with determination, "Your terms are outrageous. We cannot accept them. We have a chance." Hall Chief Lu's heart became even calmer. If the fourth elder also slammed the table and wanted to leave, wanting to end the negotiations, then things would become troublesome. Since the fourth elder said this, it meant that they could accept some of the conditions. As long as they relaxed some of the conditions, the negotiation would be successful. Of course, they would try their best to fight for their own interests. Hall leader Lu smiled and said, "Don't be angry, third elder. The real headquarters of the Grim Reaper can't be found in the chaotic starfields, so it's meaningless for you to go there. We're here to negotiate, and we're all here with a peaceful and friendly heart. Don't go to war at the drop of a hat. How about this? I'll go and argue with the Death God headquarters to reduce the compensation by half? What about the other rules?" The Grim Reaper's demand of 100 trillion celestial stones was actually intentional. It didn't even matter if they didn't pay a single celestial stone. What the Grim Reaper wanted wasn't celestial stones or resources, but to make the Gui race lower their heads. This way, the name of the Grim Reaper would resound throughout the 8 major starfields, which would be of great help to the Grim Reaper's future expansion and development. "Celestial, sure, this is not a problem." The fourth elder waved his hand and said, "If you can nullify the first 3 conditions, we can compensate you with 500 trillion celestial stones. How about it?" The Grim Reaper and the Gui race were rich and imposing. They didn't care about celestial stones or resources. As long as they had their territory, wouldn't it be easy to get celestial stones? The fourth elder thought for a moment and added, "The first condition is impossible. We can give up on the carp race, and we can also sign an agreement to no longer be enemies with the Grim Reaper. However, You don't even need to think about making an announcement. The third condition is for our elders to kneel and kowtow. You don't even need to think about this condition. These are all principles, and there's no need for discussion. Hall leader Lu was delighted. The fourth elder only refuted a part of the two conditions, and it seemed like there was still room for discussion. He frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, "Then, according to the fourth elder, how should we change these conditions? Let's make some concessions." The fourth elder pondered for a moment and said, "If the Grim Reaper wants to open up in the Heavenly Dipper starfield, sure. We can also guarantee your safety in secret. Of course, if the Grim Reaper provokes the super races, we will not be able to do anything. Assassins from the Grim Reaper must not attack the Gui race. Luli cannot step into the Heavenly Dipper starfield again. Also, Luli must make an announcement to apologize to the Gui race. Third, we will give you resources equivalent to 500 trillion celestial stones." Patriarch 4 did make a lot of concessions, and it was sincere. He was close to the bottom line that Luli had set for Hall Leader Lu. Hall Leader Lu continued to wrangle to see if he could get more benefit. In the end, the heated discussion lasted for an entire afternoon. Patriarch 3 pounded the table for several times. The Gui race made some concessions again. For example, the compensation was in the trillions of celestial stones, and the Gui race could give a small universe near the Carp race to the Grim Reaper as a base. Hall leader Lu left in satisfaction. But he didn't say yes right away. He said that he needed to ask his superiors, and that it would take a few days. He asked the two patriarchs to wait. Hall leader Lu sent the news back to the Grim Reaper. The other leaders were thrilled. Not only did Luli win, but he did so in such a beautiful way. Luli made the proud and powerful Gui race lower their head and offer so much compensation. This was an unprecedented victory. Emperor Li planned to send a message to Hall leader Lu at once to ask him to agree to the negotiation, but Emperor Mo refused. He said that he must send a message to Luli first and ask for his opinion. Emperor Mo's words were vague, but his meaning was clear. This was all Luli's contribution, and Luli must make the decision. Emperor Yu and Emperor of Wings, who had rebuilt their bodies, agreed and said that they should send a message to Luli first. The other two leaders also said that they could not make the decision on their own and that they should ask for Luli's opinion first. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu looked at each other. Somehow, they had a feeling, without knowing it, Luli had become the leader of the 10 leaders. That being said, in terms of contributions to the Grim Reaper and in terms of combat abilities, Luli did surpass all the leaders. If it were not for Luli, the Grim Reaper would have been destroyed by the Gui race. If it were not for Luli, the Grim Reaper would not have become one of the 12 masters of the Chaotic Star region. Apart from Luli, who else could defeat the Gui race on their own? All the leaders would be killed, let alone Luli. How could they fight against two at the absolute completion of the Gui race? Phew, Emperor Li breathed in relief. He suddenly remembered how long it had been since Luli joined the Grim Reaper. When Luli joined the Grim Reaper, for them, he was just a young elite that could be trained. How many years had it been? Luli had surpassed them in all aspects? That was how the world worked. Third Master. Chapter 35-31. Luli was not surprised when he received the news. He had learned from the old demons that several major races were working together to attack the Gui race. The Gui race had no way out. Apart from making peace with Luli, there was no other way out. If they didn't make peace with Luli, then what awaited them would be complete annihilation. Luli thought for an hour and then sent a message to the God of Death. He asked them to tell Master Lu that he wanted to add another condition. The Gui race could not enter the chaotic universe and could not attack any of the God of Death unless the God of Death broke the contract first. Otherwise, the agreement would be voided and Luli would seek revenge on the Gui race. Luli did not want the Gui race to seek revenge on the god of death after the situation was stabilized. If the Gui race were to sneak into the Tianyu city, the Lu family would be wiped out, not to mention everything else. Therefore, Luli added this condition to warn the Gui race that if they acted recklessly, he would as well. By then, it would be a lose-lose situation for both sides. Master Lu relayed Lu Li's words to the two patriarchs of the Gui race. The two patriarchs did not say anything and agreed readily. They must deal with the current crisis. As for the future, they would deal with it later. When the Gui race grew stronger or had the chance to deal with Lu Li, they would not care about the agreement. If the Gui race could not survive this crisis, then there would be no breach of contract. The Gui race also proposed another condition, which was for Lu Li to put on a show. For example, he would be surrounded by the powerful Gui race and then run away with injuries. Then, he would make another announcement, which would be more credible. It would prove that the Gui race had won and restore some of their reputation. Of course, the Gui race would not let Lu Li work for nothing. They would give him another 200 trillion celestial stones and other resources. Master Lu could not make the decision on his own. What if this was a trap set by the Gui race? He had to send the message to the god of death, who then told Lu Li. Lu Li was amused. The Gui race really cared about their reputation. Master Lu said readily that they could put on a show, but he would direct it himself to save face for the Gui race. But 200 trillion was not enough. They must add 500 trillion. He would hire some old demons to pretend to be the Gui race and record it with a memory crystal. All in all, it would prove that he was defeated by the Gui race. The third and fourth elders of the Gui clan discussed for a while and decided that this was the only way. However, they wanted Lu Li to guarantee that his acting was real. Otherwise, not only would they not give him 500 trillion, they wouldn't even give him the previous 1,000 trillion. When Lu Li received the news, he immediately contacted Fan Seng and found 7 or 8 demons to put on a show. These old demons all knew some disguise techniques, so it wasn't a problem for them to disguise themselves as the Gui race. In any case, it was just an act. It was fine as long as the memory crystal couldn't tell. In a wasteland, Lu Li was covered in blood. Behind him, 8 powerhouses who were infinitely close to the consummate level were madly chasing him. Lu Li, you bastard! You have been hit by my family patriarch. All your bones are shattered, right? Surrender, you can't escape. Lu Li, surrender now. We are tolerant. As long as you surrender, we will give you the position of a patriarch. Lu Li, if you don't surrender, we will have no choice but to kill you. My king takes pity on you for being a talent, otherwise he would have killed you long ago. Don't be so shameless. Lu Li, you won't be able to escape. Our clan's great elder has already arrived at this realm. If you continue to be stubborn, you will die. Right. Surrender to the Gui race, and we will guarantee you a lifetime of prosperity. We can give you the position of the 18th patriarch, which is a high position. The group of old demons roared incessantly, and there was a memory crystal that had been placed nearby to record this scene, including their voices. Everything was real. Lu Li's breaths were in a mess, he was bleeding, his face was pale, and his eyes were filled with fear. Everything was perfect, okay. After a while, Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Brothers, thank you for your hard work. When the Duan race compensates, I will ask the god of death to send you 200 trillion celestial stones as a token of appreciation. I hope you will keep this a secret. Thank you." Lord Lu, you are welcome. Lord Lu, you don't have to worry about the resources. You have saved our lives. This is not a big deal. It is not worth mentioning. Right. The old demons said politely. They respected and awed Lu Li from the bottom of their hearts. Not even a warrior at the Absolute Realm could have beaten the Gui race into submission, not to mention Lu Li, a warrior at the Great Emperor Realm. It would be impossible for an average warrior at the Absolute Realm to beat the Gui race into submission. The warrior might even be killed. Luli had done what many warriors wanted to do but could not and dared not to. Therefore, the old demons respected him. Luli did not waste time. He sent a message to Fan Tseng and then left. Luli asked Fan Tseng to send someone to deliver the memory crystal to the Gui race. Soon, the Gui race received the crystal. They made tens of thousands of copies and distributed them to other universes. The information about the crystal spread quickly. Not long afterward, Lu Li's notice came out as well. He sincerely apologized to the Gui race and stated that he would never set foot in the Diangong universe again. He hoped to reconcile with the Gui race and no longer be hostile. He sincerely hoped that the god of death and the Gui race could live in peace and be friends for generations to come. As soon as the notice came out, the Diangong universe was in an uproar. Most warriors thought it was fake. Lu Li was a man of unyielding character. How could he issue such a cowardly notice? What was more, Lu Li was not captured or killed. Knowing him, he would not admit defeat. He would continue to fight. Many universes booed. Clearly, they did not believe it. But 4 to 5 days later, many memory crystals came out. It was Lu Li's recording. He apologized to the Gui race in a sincere tone, begged for their forgiveness, and hoped that the god of death and the Gui race could live in peace. He also expressed his willingness to form an alliance with the Gui race on behalf of the god of death. When the news spread out, the Diangong universe believed it. If it were fake, Lu Li would have refuted it. Of course, there must be something fishy. Many warriors wondered if the Gui race had gone to the headquarters of the god of death. Otherwise, why would Lu Li admit defeat so quickly? The Gui race did not respond. They seemed to be disdainful. They didn't issue any notice. They merely spread out some rumors and told the scouts to retreat and stop pursuing Lu Li. Since Lu Li had admitted defeat, the Gui race didn't have to go after him. They would spare Lu Li's life. The Gui race spread the news on purpose. Soon, the Gui race's reputation was restored. That being said, in order to let Lu Li record the memory crystals, the Gui race spent another 500 trillion celestial stones. Lu Li extorted them. The Gui race had regained their dignity, Lu Li was rewarded, and the god of death had a chance to expand. Their headquarters in the Diangong universe had begun to be built again. Everything was going well. Of course, in this battle, the god of death lost a leader and so many top assassins. Many patriarchs of the Gui race were killed as well. Strictly speaking, both sides suffered losses. In the end, Lu Li admitted defeat. But he did so in a strange way. Even though it seemed that Lu Li had failed, he became famous after this one battle. The news spread across the 8 galaxies. There was a Lu Li in the chaotic star region who had incredible stealth and assassination skills. Usually, the major races would not dare to provoke this maleficent star. Third Master. Chapter 35-32. As promised, Lu Li left the Dipper universe after his mission was accomplished. Commander Lu had already signed an agreement with the 3rd and 4th elders of the Gui race. When they signed the agreement, they used a memory crystal to record this moment and engraved the Gui race's emblem on the agreement. This thing couldn't be carved casually. It would only be carved for important matters of the race. This agreement was something that the Grim Reaper's side had to sign. If the Gui race acted recklessly and this agreement was exposed, then the Gui race's reputation would be completely ruined. They would also become a joke in the heavenly Dipper star region. By then, the Gui race would probably not even dare to go out as they would be laughed to death. After the god of death received the agreement, Lu Li left with peace of mind. He didn't care about what happened next. The god of death would send warriors to take over. He left alone and hid for 2 days after leaving the Big Dipper star area. Then, He took out his battleship and flew to the chaotic star area. After flying peacefully for half a year, he returned to the heavenly chaotic starfield and went straight to the Skymoon City. Arriving at the Tianyu City, Luli found the city was crowded with warriors. Last time he came back, tens of thousands of warriors came to greet him. This time, however, there were hundreds of thousands and all the big shots were here. "Welcome back, Emperor Lu!" Emperor Li personally shouted, and all the other warriors followed suit. Countless low-level death gods knelt down on one knee and shouted. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism, and they looked like devout believers. What Luli did in the Tiangang star region had been spread to the entire chaotic star region. All 8 galaxies were talking about it. He had single-handedly subdued a super clan. What kind of impressive battle record was this? Everyone in the Grim Reaper was proud of Luli. Recently, they all felt proud. Many races in the chaotic star region were proud of Luli because this was a fight between 2 galaxies. It meant that the chaotic star region had won. Emperor Li sighed to himself when he saw the passion in the eyes of the Reapers. Even though Luli ranked last among the 10 warriors, Emperor Li felt Luli had become the first. He had become the soul of the entire Reapers, the king of the Reapers. Of course, Emperor Li wouldn't do anything about it. He knew very well that the Grim Reaper was a whole entity that represented the interests of all the major races. If he acted recklessly, it would harm the interests of the Li family. Luli exchanged conventional greetings with the warriors. Then, he said that he had to go back and have some rest. They would talk again in 3 days. But Emperor Li and the others were not in a hurry. They told Luli to go back and have a good rest for half a month. For the Grim Reaper, there was nothing to worry about. Luli went back to the Lu mansion with his wives and Lu Renhuang. A banquet had been prepared. Leaders of the Lu Alliance and Lu Li's friends were all present. "Ha ha ha, come, let's not go home until we're drunk." Luli was in a good mood. He could relax completely. During the time he was in the Dipper Galaxy, he had not slept well. His mind was on high alert all the time. He could die in the Dipper Galaxy if he was careless while being hunted down by 2 absolute completion realm warriors. Lu Li's wives said nothing. They had learned about what happened in the Tiangang Galaxy, and they understood how dangerous Lu Li's trip was. But they chose to say nothing. They all knew Lu Li's temperament. There was no point in saying anything. Once Lu Li had made up his mind, no one could change his mind. Also, they all believed in Lu Li because he had never let them down. That day Lu Li got drunk. In the end, he had to be carried back by Yin Qingxi and the others. He slept for a day and a night in his own bed. For the next half a month, Lu Li never left his room. He just rested at home. Recently, the chaotic star region was particularly lively. Everyone was talking about what Lu Li had done in the Dipper Galaxy. Many minor races were not convinced that the Grim Reaper had become one of the 12 masters. Now they were convinced. Lu Li's fame was like the sun at high noon. He was among the top 10 in the chaotic star region. Not even some at the Absolute Realm could compete with him. Lu Li's fame had surpassed Emperor Li and the others. He had become the spokesperson of the Grim Reaper. Whenever the Grim Reaper was mentioned, Lu Li would be mentioned. What Lu Li had done over the years and his miraculous rise had been praised. During this time, the chaotic starfield was exceptionally peaceful. Almost nothing major happened. The 12 masters were resting and building up strength. Large-scale battles were strictly forbidden. Occasionally, there would be some small conflicts, but they were all suppressed by the major races. Some young masters from major races would go out and cause trouble. Whenever they did, they would be punished by the judicial hall and given heavy sentences. Therefore, during this time, the young masters and young ladies of the major races were keeping a low profile. They didn't dare to show off. As a matter of fact, the Grim Reaper was the most low-key of the 12 masters. Since he was facing a crisis and his own territory was not in order, None of the descendants of the 9 masters were allowed to go out. Also, the Grim Reaper was the weakest among the 12 masters. The young masters and young ladies of the Grim Reaper were well aware of this. Naturally, they didn't dare to go out and cause trouble. The Grim Reaper's assassination business was stopped in the Chaotic Star region. The young masters and young ladies didn't have an excuse to go out. The 9 masters had strict supervision. Therefore, the Grim Reaper had the best reputation. He didn't show his dominance as a master and he never bullied the minor races nearby. Luli rested for half a month and then went to the council hall. All the masters were present. When Luli went in, he saw an unfamiliar powerful warrior who was infinitely close to the absolute realm. Luli looked at him with curiosity and then turned to Emperor Mo, waiting for his introduction. Emperor Mo pulled Luli over and said with enthusiasm, "Luli, let me introduce you. This is Gu Qi, a powerful warrior that joined us recently. He has been our trump card, the Grim Reaper, and he has been famous for many years." Gu Qi was old and he was a powerful warrior of a special race. Luli sensed that Gu Qi was more powerful than Emperor Yu and the others. The Grim Reaper was going to replace Emperor Bo. Luli turned to Emperor of Wings and Emperor of Feather and they nodded. Luli was more confident now. Gu Qi must be on the same side as Emperor Mo, Wings and Emperor Yu. Luli smiled and said, "Lord Gu Qi, nice to meet you." Emperor Lu. Gu Qi cupped his fists and said, "Don't call me Lord. Emperor Lu, you are famous in the 8 galaxies and you defeated the Duan race on your own. How can I be worthy of you calling me Lord?" Luli. Emperor Li said in a deep voice, "Emperor Bo is in trouble and one of the 10 masters is vacant. We have arranged for Emperor Bo's descendants. It is a pity that there is no powerful warrior in Emperor Bo's family. Therefore, we have made a selection and found that Gu Qi is good. So, I want to ask your opinion." Luli waved his hand and said, "If you are okay with it, then I am okay with it. I trust your judgment and I believe that with Gu Qi on our side, the Grim Reaper will grow stronger. Thank you, Emperor Lu, for your approval and kindness. Thank you, everyone." Gu Qi was overjoyed. He did not know Luli well before, but he did now. The core of the Grim Reaper was Luli. In other words, Luli was the boss of the Grim Reaper. If Luli did not agree, Gu Qi would not be able to take the position. Right. Emperor Li remembered something else and said, "Recently, there are 7 warriors who are very close to the consummate realm joining us. Gu Qi is the most powerful and he is the one who has the deepest connection with the Grim Reaper. Let's discuss how we should deal with the other 6 supreme expert." Really? Luli was delighted to hear this. So many powerful warriors were seeking refuge with him? That was great news indeed. Chapter 35-33. The most important thing for a force was powerful warriors. They were the foundation of a force. Without powerful warriors, everything would be meaningless. Essentially, the God of Death was just an average force. Compared to the top forces, the God of Death was a major reason why the God of Death could become one of the 12 masters. If the God of Death were to rely on its own force, it would have been swallowed up, let alone become a master. Luli had grown attached to the God of Death after spending so many years in the God of Death. What was more, Lu Meng had become a part of the God of Death. The interests of the God of Death represented the interests of the Lu Meng. Therefore, Luli was concerned about the God of Death. He was happy to hear that there were powerful warriors joining the alliance. Sovereign of Wings gave the information of the powerful warriors to Luli. Luli nodded after he read it. Those powerful warriors were related to the God of Death in some way. Many of them had taken orders from the God of Death. Now they had no other choice. The territories were divided. They had no resources. They had to either fight for territories from the 12 masters or go to the 12 masters. or they could go to the southeast of the chaotic star region to fight for a piece of territory. However, the territories there were divided as well. There were many powerful warriors that were close to the complete completion of the God of Death. In the end, they chose to go to the God of Death. The God of Death was not made up of a single race. The God of Death was an alliance of different races. At the very least, they wouldn't be excluded or suppressed by the God of Death. According to the rules we have set, there will only be 10 masters. Please discuss how to settle the powerful warriors, Emperor Li said, speaking in a tone of a big brother. The other masters nodded. The principle of 10 masters could not be changed. It was the protection of the interests of all the powerful warriors here. If the number of masters kept increasing, then their interests and authority would be divided. When the number of masters increased and some joined forces, there wouldn't be a place for them to stay. The other masters expressed their opinions one by one. Lu Li said nothing. Gu Qi had just become a master and he was keeping a low profile. He didn't dare to express his opinion easily. Some of the masters said that the powerful warriors should be made patriarchs and the former patriarchs should be demoted to hall masters. Some masters said that the position of great patriarch should be set up so that the powerful warriors could be worshipped. Some of the big shots suggested giving this supreme expert real power and territory. This way they would be able to win over the hearts of the people. After all, this group of experts was here for real power and territory. If he didn't hand it over, this group of experts would probably be bitterly disappointed. The other big shots said that they couldn't easily give real power. They could give land, but they couldn't give real power. Otherwise, how would the elders of the Grim Reaper feel comfortable? Emperor Li and the others had expressed their opinions. Only Gu Qi and Lu Li remained silent. Emperor Li turned to Gu Qi and asked, Gu Qi, if you have any opinions, feel free to voice them. You are one of the leaders now. We are democratic. The minority must obey the majority. Gu Qi smiled, cupped his hands and said, Emperor Li, I have no opinion. I will listen to you. Gu Qi was very smart. He had just become a giant, so if he casually expressed his opinion, he would definitely be displeased by the other giant. He had just become a giant, so he had to keep a low profile for a while. He had to observe the situation and stabilize himself first. Emperor Li was satisfied with the ancient artifact's attitude. Turning to Lu Li, he asked, What about you, Lu Li? What do you think? Lu Li usually didn't express his opinion on matters, but this time, he pondered for a moment and said, I suggest that we give them some high positions and observe them for a while. If they really have the ability and are loyal to the Grim Reaper, then we can give them important tasks. Now that our territory is so big, we need more experts to guard it. Okay. Lu Li is right. Agreed. As soon as Lu Li said so, Emperor Mo, Emperor of Yu, and Emperor of Wings expressed their opinions. 2 other leaders agreed as well. Emperor Li pulled a long face. At first, the other 2 leaders didn't have this opinion. But as soon as Lu Li spoke, they changed their minds. Was there any democracy? This was like a monarch's centralization of power. 6 of the 10 leaders had agreed. It didn't matter whether the others expressed their opinions or not. Emperor Li and the others didn't invite humiliation upon themselves. They all agreed. Lu Li and the others began to discuss the Diangong Galaxy. Lu Li gave a brief account of his experience there. All the experts were shocked to hear this. The matters in the Heavenly Dipper star field were almost finished. The elders who had gone to take over the affairs there had already set off. The resources promised by the Gui race had already been prepared. All they needed to do was wait for the elders to go over and hand them over. Lu Li. Emperor Li thought about it and said, You can have the resources. You have made a great contribution this time. We don't have much to reward you. You deserve it. Lu Li shook his head with a smile. No. The God of Death has sacrificed so much for this battle. So many brave warriors passed away, including Emperor Bu. So, give the resources to the god of death. The other leaders tried to persuade Lu Li to stay. The god of death had taken over a large territory and was not in lack of resources. Lu Li had made such a great contribution. The resources were fought for by him. It was only right that Lu Li should be rewarded. Lu Li couldn't refuse. He didn't want to say more. He nodded in agreement. The Lu Alliance was not in lack of resources. That being said, with this batch of resources, the Lu Alliance would have enough for the next 1,000 years. It was time to mobilize another group of elites from the Middle King realms to train. Now that the business in the Diangong galaxy was taken care of, the rest was trivial. Lu Li didn't want to express his opinion. After half a day of discussion, Lu Li returned to the Lu mansion. Not long after he came back, Gu Qi came to visit with valuable gift. Lu Li welcomed Gu Qi in politely. Gu Qi was very respectful. Though he was more than 100,000 years old, he behaved like a junior. Based on his words, it was as if he would follow Lu Li's lead in the future. Even though Lu Li had made a great contribution and was the soul of the god of death, he was not arrogant. Instead, he was polite. He knew very well that if he were too overbearing or arrogant, the god of death would split up, which would be detrimental to the god's development. The next day, the god of death made an announcement. Gu Qi was promoted. 6 great patriarchs were appointed at the same time. The powerful warriors made an official appearance. Not only were they given high positions, but they were also given land. This was a show of respect, but no real power. The 6 warriors who were infinitely close to the completion of the god of death knew very well that it was impossible to gain the trust of the leaders of the god of death in a short period of time. It would take time. The god of death had treated them well by giving them the positions of great patriarchs and lands. In the future, they would have to do something and make some contributions before they could be fully recognized by the leaders of the god of death. The Lu mansion was quite lively. The 6 warriors who were infinitely close to the completion of the god of death came to visit one by one. They all brought valuable gifts and were humble. They had some connections with the god of death, and they knew some middle and high-level leaders. They had some information and they knew that the real leader of the god of death was Lu Li. It was this young man who was only at the Emperor realm and looked gentle and amiable. Chapter 35-34. Lu Li's return had reassured the Lu Alliance. Lu Renhuang had gained a large amount of resources and treasures. Lu Renhuang began to plan for the next batch of elite warriors. Over the years, the Central King universe had been recuperating. Civilians were encouraged to marry and have more children. The families that ruled the region would give them reward. Therefore, over the years, the population of the Central King universe had been increasing. With more people, there would be more talented children. Once those children were discovered, they would be sent to the Liberty City to be trained by Saint Emperor Xiaoyao's subordinates. Now, the Central King universe was unified. None of the major families dared to disobey Saint Emperor Xiaoyao's orders. Of course, the Central King universe belonged to Lu Li rather than Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. Lu Li was more like the Supreme Emperor of the Central King universe. Every time the Lu Alliance went back to mobilize elites, they would send back countless resources and spread the news. Now, all the Central King universe knew that the Central King universe was only a small one. There was a vast world out there. Emperors were powerful warriors in the Central King universe, but they were nothing out there. Saint Emperors were nothing. There were many places out there and 8 powerful galaxies. The 8 galaxies were filled with powerful warriors and Saint Emperors. Their respected Lu Renhuang was in the Chaotic Star region, one of the 8 galaxies. He was a leader in the Reaper, one of the 12 masters of the Chaotic Star region. He had countless Saint Emperors working for him, not to mention emperors. For the civilians of a Middle King realm, Lu Li was an immortal standing high above the masses. Lu Li's decree was the decree of the gods. Every once in a while, Luli would select some elites and some warriors would come back, because they were tired of the outside world. They would become instructors of Saint Emperor Xiaoyao to train the elite warriors. They would tell them what they had seen and heard in the outside world. Gradually, the news spread out. For many young warriors, it was their biggest dream to leave the Central King universe to join the Lu Alliance in the Chaotic Star region. Once they joined the Lu Alliance, they would have a huge stage where they could soar. Over the years, tens of thousands of warriors that joined the Lu Alliance had ascended to higher realms. It was said that a young master from a major family at the Flying Fire continent had reached the Emperor realm and became a patriarch of the Lu Alliance. As an elder of the Lu Alliance, he would be the most powerful person in the entire Grim Reaper, or even the entire Chaotic Starfield. Therefore, countless young people wanted to join the Lu Alliance. They all hoped that the Lu Alliance would send people to select elite martial artists. The great families of the Middle King realms also sent their outstanding disciples to Carefree City, hoping that the Lu Alliance would take a liking to them. For those small families, the moment their family members joined the Lu Union, they would immediately be like carps leaping through the Dragon Gate. The nearby clans didn't dare to bully them anymore, because what if their clan's martial artists stayed in the Lu Union for hundreds or thousands of years and became emperors or saint emperors? The Middle King realms were developing, the Lu Alliance was also developing rapidly, and so was the Grim Reaper. Everything was on the right track. Luli had nothing to do. He went to the Heavenland realm to visit the young elites from the Middle King realms and gave them some words of encouragement. Those young elites could not sleep for half a month. They were so excited. Then, Luli went on a sightseeing tour with his wives and concubines. They wandered around the universe occupied by the Grim Reaper and patrolled around to learn more about the situation. The Grim Reaper occupied almost 1,000 universes. Luli spent 2 years to visit half of them, not to mention all of them. After 2 years of sightseeing with his wives and concubines, Luli finally had some time to relax. During these 2 years, he had been thinking about his future path of cultivation. Normally speaking, he should be at the peak of his abilities, but he was satisfied that he had reached this stage. He was just a kid from the mortal realm. It was already heaven-defying for him to have become a deity. Yet, he had walked step by step all the way to where he was today. He was even able to exchange a few blows with the most powerful Great Perfection deities. The Great Perfection deity of the Gang tribe even respected him greatly. He had conquered a race with 2 absolute peak warriors all by himself. He had no regrets in his life. The only thing he was worried about was Little White. If Little White could reach the absolute peak and stabilize its position as the king of the East region, then he would have nothing to pursue in this life. He had so many beautiful wives and concubines, his family was thriving, and the Middle King realms were developing in his hands. Everything was perfect. Well, I don't have much to do. Time to improve my realm. Luli decided to go back and cultivate. He was at the peak of the Emperor realm. For a warrior, this realm was not good enough. He must find a way to reach the Saint Emperor realm. The Grim Reaper had many secret areas and some strange places. They also had a way to go through Heaven's tribulation. For them, Heaven's tribulation was not difficult. They had many top-level elixirs, some of which were helpful for Heaven's tribulation. Back at the Heaven's Edge city, Luli found that there were 4 more warriors that were almost at the absolute peak. 4 more warriors had been recruited in 2 years. This was efficient. Luli did not know that it was because of him that so many warriors were joining the Grim Reaper. In the battle at the Tiangang Galaxy, Luli defeated the Duans all by himself, which boosted the prestige of the Grim Reaper. In addition, 2 years ago, the 7 powerhouses who joined the Alliance were infinitely close to the consummate level. One of them became a powerhouse, while the other 6 became great elders. All of them were divided into territories and were gradually granted some authority. This made many old demons somewhat acknowledge the Grim Reaper. Back then, the fact that the Grim Reaper could defeat the Duons was spread out. Behind the Grim Reaper was the son of the king of the eastern region. Many warriors that were almost at the absolute peak were in awe of the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper was not strong at the moment, but it could become the second Duons if it could develop. The more powerful warriors, the better. As a matter of fact, the Grim Reaper's territory was so large that it could have more than 100 warriors that were almost at the absolute peak. What was more, the Grim Reaper now had branches in all 7 galaxies. They were in need of a large number of powerful warriors. Their assassin business could earn a large number of celestial stones every year. The Grim Reaper was in need of nothing but powerful warriors. The Grim Reaper also quietly spread the word that any powerhouse who was infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm would be given a realm. Although it wasn't a particularly rich realm, having a realm meant that the powerhouse's race would have a lot of room for development. Lu Li. As soon as Lu Li entered the Lu Mansion, Emperor Mo came. He went straight to the point. When you were outside, the 9 of us had a discussion and decided to start dividing into factions. In the future, on the surface, there will be all kinds of fights. Of course, we will not go too far. Why? Lu Li blinked in embarrassment. The Grim Reaper was still in a period of rapid development. Wouldn't this be damaging the Foundation? How could the Grim Reaper develop with endless infighting? For balance and for control. Emperor Mo explained, recently, we have received news that there will be another 7 or 8 warriors that are almost at the absolute peak coming from the southeast to join us. Think about it. In the future, we will have more and more powerful warriors. But we don't have warriors at the absolute peak. How can we subdue them? What if we have 50 great patriarchs and they unite? By then we will die a tragic death. Chapter 35-35. Lu Li understood what Emperor Mo was trying to say. The god of death would usher in a period of rapid development. There might be many warriors that were close to the absolute completion of the god of death. The god of death would not turn down powerful warriors. The god of death needed powerful warriors as well. The problem was that the god of death did not have a supreme warrior to hold the fort. If there was one at the absolute completion, the others would not be a problem. Even if there were 1,000 warriors that were close to the absolute completion, the god of death would be able to handle them. By the looks of it, it was almost impossible for Emperor Li, Emperor Mo, and Emperor of Wings to reach the absolute completion. It was impossible for Lu Li to do so. Lu Li was still at the Emperor realm. The god of death did not have many powerful warriors at the moment. Once dozens joined the god of death, how could the god of death suppress them? How could the 10 leaders suppress dozens of warriors that were close to the absolute completion? Emperor Li and the others were not particularly strong. Take Emperor Yu for example. He was weaker than the warriors that joined later. At first, the powerful warriors might not say anything, but as time went by, they would become part of the god of death and unite with other powerful warriors. In time, the god of death would have their opinions. They were stronger than them. Why were they the leaders? Why were they superior? Once dozens of powerful warriors joined hands, they could kill the 10 leaders easily. By then, the god of death would change. Preparing for a rainy day was a good strategy that Emperor Mo and the others came up with. The strategy they came up with was that the 10 leaders would gather together a group of warriors that were close to the absolute completion and then fight against each other openly and covertly. Each of the 10 leaders would gather together several powerful warriors, and they would be divided into 10 forces. After a long period of open and covert fighting, the 10 forces would be secretly hostile to each other. The newly joined warriors would have to join a side or else they would be pushed aside and suppressed. Since all the powerful warriors had joined the fight, then they could not unite, which would be more controllable. The 10 major factions kept each other in check and suppressed each other. The 10 giants were always able to act as judges and secretly control this major force. The Grim Reaper was always able to condense into a rope. Luli and Emperor Mo discussed for a while. Then, they went to the council hall and gathered all the leaders. Luli highly approved of the strategy that the 9 leaders came up with. But there were some details that needed to be discussed. There is a problem, Luli said seriously. We are divided into 10 factions. This is not a problem. There won't be any problems in the early stages, but as time passes, we might have to resort to acting for real. The people above us may not be hostile, but as our clansmen and subordinates fight, we will slowly become hostile. In the end, we may really become enemies or we may really start a war. At that time, the situation will get out of hand, and we, the Grim Reaper, will also decline due to the constant internal strife. As soon as Luli finished his words, all the powerful warriors said nothing. Luli's words did make sense. At the very least, there were some signs now. The Li family and the Lu family didn't have a good relationship, and the Li family hated the Lu family. Once the higher-ups acquiesced to the fight, the Lu family and the Li family would be in conflict. Luli and the others, as powerful warriors, could not step in. By then, the fight would be even fiercer. Both sides might suffer massive casualties. The Lu alliance had many disciples, and so did the Li clan. Once a battle broke out, both sides would suffer heavy casualties. At that time, the losses would outweigh the gains. The 10 leaders of the Grim Reaper were on good terms. At the very least, they were all working for the good of the Grim Reaper. However, as time went by, there would be disputes over interests. It was inevitable that the leaders would not hate each other and they would not act rashly. By then, it would be a disaster for the Grim Reaper. On this thought, the leaders broke out in a cold sweat. They had thought this was a good plan, but it seemed that it could bring the Grim Reaper into the abyss. But without this plan, how could the 10 leaders suppress the warriors that joined later? Right now, there were more and more powerful beings joining in. I suggest, Luli said, we will write some things down in the rules. The rules are created to restrain the 10 leaders. If someone violates the rules and crosses the line, then the other leaders will kill him together. As long as there is clear evidence, no rebuttal will work. We will kill him regardless of the reason. I think so. Emperor Mo nodded and said, we can go too far on small matters, but we cannot compromise on principles. Agreed. Emperor of Wings and Emperor of Feather agreed. Emperor Li nodded as well. After all, if there were no restrictions, the Grim Reaper would be destroyed. After a pause, Luli proposed the first rule. Under no circumstances can we murder the immediate family members of the other party. Even if they have done something wrong and are guilty, they must be tried publicly. They cannot be killed directly. An eye for an eye. Shielding the leaders of your subordinates or family members is against the rules. Agreed. This is good. I agree. The leaders nodded. This rule was good for everyone. Subordinates could do whatever they wanted, but at least, the immediate family members could not be harmed. That was the most important strength of their race, and the foundation for their development and continuity. If the immediate family members were constantly being killed, then there would be nothing left to do. The second rule, Emperor Mo said after some thoughts, the factions can work together to a limited extent, but they cannot secretly attack each other. Otherwise, when the factions work together, one faction will be destroyed in an instant. Agreed. That is right. Emperor Yu said, I don't think warriors that are infinitely close to the consummate realm can take actions. Otherwise, the damage will be too great. The factions must restrain their most powerful warriors. Once a powerful warrior takes action, we must judge him together and punish him severely. If the crime is serious, we can kill him directly. Well, I think it is possible, Luli nodded. This rule is important. It is okay for the lower realms of the Emperor realm and Saint Emperors to mess around. If warriors that are infinitely close to the consummate realm get involved, then the damage will be greater and the foundation of the Grim Reaper will be damaged as well. I think there is another rule we can propose. Another leader added, we can set up some reward and punishment mechanisms to encourage them to compete in a healthy way. For example, they can go out to carry out missions and go to the 7 galaxies to earn fame for the Grim Reaper. We can give a very high reward, but we can also give a very heavy punishment. The rules were proposed one by one and supplemented one by one. The meeting lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, 21 rules were formulated. The rules would not be made public. They would be used to restrain the 9 leaders. Without the rules, the Grim Reaper would have internal strife in less than 5 years. With the rules in place, the Grim Reaper could be protected for hundreds of years. After the meeting of the 10 magnates, many magnates began to recruit subordinates in secret, especially those supreme experts who had just joined. They were the main targets of recruitment. The trump cards of the Grim Reaper were also the focus of recruitment. When the news spread out, the entire Grim Reaper was in an uproar. The Grim Reaper had its own factions, but they were not so blatant. Now, the leaders were almost openly forming their own factions. Were they going to start a civil war? The third leader. Chapter 35-36. Every force had its own factions. Even a small family would have its own factions, which was normal. There would be open and veiled fights within the major forces and races. But those were small fights that wouldn't affect the overall situation. Usually, the family patriarch or the leader of a force could control the situation. The Grim Reaper had no family patriarch and no absolute leader. The Grim Reaper was more like an alliance. The 10 giants were the 10 alliances. The Grim Reaper didn't have a complete warrior or a powerful warrior with absolute prestige to control the entire force. Luli had enough prestige. It was a pity that he hadn't been with the Grim Reaper for long, and he was only at the Emperor realm. He was too young to convince the public. There used to be factions within the Grim Reaper. Luli was on good terms with Emperor Yu, Emperor E, and Emperor Mo. Emperor Li was on good terms with other giants as well. There were also some neutral factions, but the infighting was not so obvious. On the surface, everyone seemed to be in harmony. The Grim Reaper was cohesive. The Grim Reaper was still developing rapidly. Were they going to start infighting now? More importantly, shouldn't the infighting be done in secret? From the looks of it, it seemed like they were going to start fighting on the surface. The 10 giants said nothing. They didn't give any explanation. They just kept trying to rope in their followers and ask them to pick a side. First of all, the newly joined warriors who were infinitely close to the completion of the Grim Reaper were under pressure. The 10 giants had sent their men to contact all the great patriarchs and ask them to pick a side. All the great patriarchs were troubled. If they didn't pick a side, it would affect them greatly. But now, the 10 giants had all sent their men to visit them. Even though the messages were vague, the message was clear. They must pick a side or else they wouldn't have a good life. All the patriarchs received hints as well. They must pick a side. If they didn't, they would be marginalized and lose their real power. Many other trump cards of the Grim Reaper received hints and asked them to pick a side. For a moment, everyone in the Grim Reaper was in a state of panic. Many senior members of the Grim Reaper were worried that the Grim Reaper that was about to rise would be destroyed. Many Grim Reaper tried to persuade the other giants through various channels. But the 10 giants said nothing. No message was passed down. Even the immediate descendants of the 10 major families didn't know the reason. This was also what Luli and the others had agreed on. This matter could not be leaked out, otherwise, those who were infinitely close to the consummate realm in the alliance would be alienated. It didn't matter if the Grim Reaper was in chaos for a period of time. It would slowly stabilize. As long as the 10 giants didn't fall into chaos, the Grim Reaper wouldn't fall into chaos. Lu Li asked Lu Renhuang to recruit warriors. Even though Lu Renhuang was not powerful, he was Lu Li's father. Nobody dared to belittle his identity and status. Instead, they would feel valued. Lu Renhuang went to visit all the great patriarchs. He didn't make any promises. He just sent a message to Lu Li. He needed some help. Lu Li was determined to recruit Lu Li because the Lu alliance was too weak. Compared to the other forces, the Lu alliance was the weakest. There were only a few great Emperor Realm warriors working for them. Lu Li was the only one holding the fort. Therefore, the Lu alliance needed the support of strong allies. Otherwise, Lu Li would be at a disadvantage in the upcoming infighting. To Lu Li's surprise, a great patriarch who was infinitely close to the consummate realm came to surrender that night. He didn't want any promises, and he only wanted to follow Lu Li. On the second night, another great patriarch came. On the third and fourth day, the third great patriarch came. On the fifth day, another great patriarch came. Of the 10 great patriarchs of the Grim Reaper, 4 had come from Lu Li's side. Then came the patriarchs. There were many patriarchs of the Grim Reaper now. There were more than 100 patriarchs with real power but nominal positions. In 5 days, Lu Li had received more than 30, almost a quarter of the total. It had only been 5 days. There must be more to surrender. Lu Li was scared. The 10 giants had 10 factions. He had recruited so many warriors. How could the other forces compete? Lu Li had underestimated his influence. He was the soul of many of the higher-ups of the Grim Reaper. If it weren't for him, the Grim Reaper would have been destroyed by the Dagon race. In other words, Lu Li had saved the Grim Reaper and saved them. Then, Emperor Mo and the others went to the Tiangang galaxy but suffered heavy losses. Even Emperor Bu died in battle. Lu Li went alone, but he almost wiped out the Dagon race and suppressed the Dagon race. What was more, Lu Li had the king of the eastern region behind him, which was the foundation for the Grim Reaper to become one of the 12 masters. Without Lu Li, the Grim Reaper would have been destroyed, not to mention becoming one of the 12 masters. As long as Lu Li was in the Grim Reaper's position would be stable. In other words, when Lu Li was gone, the Grim Reaper would be doomed. Since they had to choose sides, they had to choose the strongest. The original patriarchs were close to Emperor Li, and they had been relying on the Grim Reaper for many years. It was not appropriate for them to switch sides. However, the later patriarchs and great patriarchs did not have such concerns. Naturally, they came to Lu Li's side to show their loyalty at once. Sure enough, as time went on, more and more patriarchs and powerful warriors joined Lu Li's side. 2 months later, almost all the middle level and higher-ups of the Grim Reaper had chosen sides. Then came a dramatic scene. Lu Li's side occupied 30% of the powerful warriors of the Grim Reaper, and the other 9 leaders divided the remaining 70%. Lu Li's side dominated. Emperor Li and the other patriarchs were dumbfounded. What else could they do? At first, they had thought that the 10 of them would share the powerful warriors and the territory of the Grim Reaper. In this way, they could fight among themselves without hurting the Foundation. Now that the factions were divided, they realized that Lu Li had become the absolute overlord. What was more, Lu Li was close to Emperor Mo, Emperor Yu, and Emperor Wing. The Grim Reaper was practically Lu Li's. If Lu Li wanted to dominate and become the only overlord of the Grim Reaper, he could mobilize powerful warriors and wipe out Emperor Li and the other patriarchs easily. They had shot themselves in the foot. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu felt like bursting into tears. They had wanted to use this opportunity to suppress Lu Li. After all, Lu Li's foundation was shallow and he was too young to convince the others. On the other hand, they had been operating in the Grim Reaper for so many years. They must have more powerful warriors with them than Lu Li. Lu Li only had the Lu Alliance. When he could not stand on his own, he would be at the mercy of Emperor Li and the Grim Reaper. At this point, there was no turning back. All the agreements had been enshrined in the ironclad law. If Emperor Li and the other patriarchs went back on their words, Luli could destroy them easily. Also, all the powerful warriors were willing to follow Luli. Luli only sent one message to each of them: come on, he needed help. They promised great benefits and even went to those powerful warriors in person. However, they could not resist Luli's call. Emperor Li and the other patriarchs sent secret messages to express their concerns. The other patriarchs did not know what to feel. Only Emperor Mo, Emperor Yu, and Emperor Wing were not worried. Luli was close to them, and they knew Luli's character well. Luli was gentle, loyal, and the kind that would not offend others if they did not offend him. What was done could not be undone. What else could Emperor Li and the other patriarchs do? They had no choice but to drink the poison that they had given themselves. Fortunately, Luli did not attach much importance to power. At the moment, it was not a bad thing for Luli to have a monopoly. If Emperor Mo and the other patriarchs had a monopoly, the situation would be even worse. Master 3. Chapter 35-37. After forming factions, internal strife naturally began. These internal strife were deliberately arranged by the Ten Giant. For example, the Elder Hall set up an Elder Council, and most of the decisions needed to be decided by the Elder Council. In the past, it was nothing, but now it was divided into factions. Under the secret command of the Ten Giants, they began to compete for the interests of each faction. Often, a small matter would cause a long fight. First, the Elder Hall fought, then the various halls below began to fight, and finally, the Death Gods below began to fight. However, the 10 Giants had formed a law enforcement team. Fighting was allowed, but no one could die. If there was a feud that could not be resolved, then they would sign a life and death contract and go to the duel field to fight, regardless of life or death. A set of reward and punishment mechanisms also came out. Those who made great contributions would be heavily rewarded, and those who made mistakes would be heavily punished. Moreover, the rewards were very heavy and the punishment was also very heavy. There was no room for negotiation in this reward and punishment mechanism. All the terms of reward and punishment were directly implemented by the Elder Hall. The 10 Giants were the highest leaders. The biggest matters needed to be discussed and determined by the 10 Giants, and ordinary matters were decided by the Elder Hall. The Elders' Hall did not differentiate between the Great Elder and the Second Elder. Most things were decided by voting. This was done on purpose by the 10 Giant. They wanted the Elders' Hall to be noisy and fight each other. In addition, the Great Elders also began to frequently go out on missions. This was a test of their loyalty and ability. Only after the test could they rest assured and use them boldly. The 10 Giants were prepared to let these great elders go down to the Elder Hall one after another, each commanding a department, and let these great elders also fight, so that they could sit on the fishing platform. They could not let these great elders be idle. Once they were idle, there would definitely be problems. They had to let them fight, let these great elders fight each other, so that they could act as referees and control the overall situation. Their original intention was to divide the group of great elders, so that they could not unite, and let them fight each other, so that they could control the situation. This was actually a method that many of the higher-ups of the forces liked to use. The way of governing was about balance and control. They could not let the subordinates unite, they had to let the subordinates fight, and the higher-ups would act as referees. If one side was strong, they would suppress the other side, and if one side was weak, they would support the other side. This way, they could always maintain a high position and control the overall situation. As time passed, the internal strife of the Death Gods became more and more serious, and the Elder Hall was quarreling every day. The family members of the 9 great tycoons also began to quarrel with each other, which then developed into fights. Fortunately, they didn't go too far. However, it was common to hear that the great-grandson of some big shot would break the head of a direct descendant of that family's young master, or even chop off his hands and feet. As long as no one was killed, everything else was fine. The various giants also issued strict orders. They could cause trouble, but there were some matters of principle that couldn't be messed up. If someone died, then no one would be able to save them. The Hall of Elders wouldn't even judge them. They would be directly executed. This was not a joke, because it was written in the iron law of the giant. If a giant tried to protect someone, then that giant would be killed by the other giant. There was no room for compromise. It was written in the iron law that no one could violate. If one violated it, then the iron law would become a joke, and the death god would also become chaotic. In the end, the death god would be destroyed, and everyone would be finished. 4 months later, the young master of the Yu family didn't believe it and tried it himself. He had a conflict with a young master of the Yu family in one of the main cities of the heavenly dragon realm. Both sides had drunk too much and started fighting without saying a word. Then, the young master accidentally killed the young master of the Yu family, and he did it himself. After the death, the young master sobered up and fled at once. He fled to a place controlled by the Yu family and hid there. As a result, he was caught by the law enforcement team 10 days after he fled. Then he was tried by the Hall of Patriarchs and sentenced to death. The execution was carried out in the Tianyue city. Emperor Yu didn't say anything about this from beginning to end, nor did he plead for mercy. Even when the young master's father knelt outside Emperor Yu's residence for a whole night, Emperor Yu didn't see him. The young master was killed in public. Then the 10 giants jointly issued a notice, issuing some iron laws. Anyone who violated the law would be killed without mercy. There was no room for negotiation. The young masters and young ladies of the 10 families were frightened. They knew it was not a joke. Anyone who violated the law would have to die. There was no room for negotiation. Lu Li gathered all the disciples of the immediate Lu family together and told them the iron laws in a serious manner. The immediate disciples of the Lu alliance were sensible, but they were not from rich families. Compared to other races, they were losers. Generally speaking, they were not powerful. What was more, they knew that the Lu alliance was weak now. They shouldn't go out and mess around. Otherwise, it would bring endless disasters to the Lu alliance. As a matter of fact, the Lu alliance was weak, but Lu Li's force was strong. He had 1/3 of the powerful warriors of the Grim Reaper. Many important clans were under Lu Li's command. Since Lu Li's force was so powerful, the other forces didn't dare to challenge him. Since the Lu alliance was in a superior position, Lu Li told his men that if the other forces didn't mess with them, then they should leave them alone. They should maintain their superior position. If anyone did mess with them, then they should fight back. As long as they didn't violate the iron laws, then they should fight back. Lu Li would take responsibility for everything. With Lu Li's words, the powerful warriors and warriors of his force were reassured. They all had a sense of superiority. They were secretly delighted that they had gone to Lu Li's side. If they had gone to other forces, then they wouldn't have such an easy time. There were more than 160 patriarchs in the Hall of Patriarchs, and Lu Li had nearly 50 of them. This was a powerful force. The patriarchs of the other forces didn't dare to offend the Hall of Patriarchs because many decisions required their support. As long as the patriarchs of Lu Li's force agreed, then the decision would be passed at the Hall of Patriarchs. Lu Li's order was to stay out of things as long as it didn't involve the interests of the Grim Reaper. Of course, the Hall of Patriarchs must be fair. Any decision that went against the interests of the Grim Reaper must be vetoed. Lu Li's strategy had made his force a superior presence in the Hall of Patriarchs. Any force that wanted to fight for interests and to make a strong decision must have the support of Lu Li's force. 2 years later, there were 18 great patriarchs on the Grim Reaper's side. There were 8 more great patriarchs. Of the 8 great patriarchs, 2 went to Lu Li's side. Luli now had 6 warriors that were close to the consummate realm. The force was terrifying. In the Hall of Patriarchs, Luli's force had become superior as well. There was a tacit understanding among the Grim Reaper's force. Luli's force had become superior. The other 9 forces didn't dare to provoke the Grim Reaper. That being said, the Grim Reaper's force was fair and just. Basically, the Grim Reaper's force prioritized the interests of the Grim Reaper. Even if the Grim Reaper's force wanted to take some benefits, it wouldn't go too far. Therefore, the other 9 forces didn't dare to provoke Luli. The other 9 forces were fighting fiercely. Luli's force, on the other hand, stayed out of the fight. It was as if the Grim Reaper's force had become the Hall of Judgment of the 12 Masters. Luli's status had become superior as well. He had become the uncrowned king of the Grim Reaper. Third Master. Chapter 35-38. The sudden addition of more than a dozen warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper caught the attention of the other 11 dominators. How many years had passed? The Grim Reaper already had so many powerful warriors. In a few decades, the number of warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper would reach 40 or 50, which would be more powerful than many dominators. The top 7 of the 12 dominators were all at the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper. There were also some who were not among the 12. They were hidden from the world. The Grim Reaper was the weakest of the 12 dominators. But now, the Grim Reaper was growing stronger and stronger. It was now among the top 10. If the Grim Reaper could continue to grow stronger and reach the absolute completion, it would be possible for it to be among the top 3 or even become the most powerful overlord. Of the 12 dominators, the Grim Reaper was the weakest. Now, the Grim Reaper was growing stronger and stronger. It was already among the top 10. However, news of the Grim Reaper's infighting had also spread. Many large clans and forces laughed when they heard the news. The Grim Reaper had just risen, and they were already fighting each other? At this rate, the Grim Reaper would be doomed. But the news of the Grim Reaper's infighting had spread. It would be a joke if the original warriors of the Grim Reaper were killed and the new warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper became the new warriors. The fact that the Grim Reaper didn't reach the absolute completion was a big problem. The Grim Reaper was not a single race. Without cohesion, it would be strange if there was no infighting among the various forces and races. Therefore, even though the Grim Reaper had more than a dozen powerful warriors, the other major forces didn't care. Of course, there were some who could see through the strategy of the 10 warriors and felt they were clever. If the situation could be controlled, then the Grim Reaper would be able to develop rapidly. It wouldn't be difficult for it to rise. But even if there were smart warriors who had guessed it, they wouldn't say anything, nor would they secretly stop the rise of the Grim Reaper. Behind the Grim Reaper was the son of the King of the East, and the Grim Reaper had Luli. Anyone who dared to act recklessly would face the wrath of Luli. The Gui race was strong, even stronger than the Gang race. The Gui race had been convinced by Luli. Would they dare to take the risk? Also, even if they could kill Luli, if the son of the King of the East came, then no major race could withstand the wrath of Little White. Development was the way to go. The major forces also began to recruit experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm. In the previous war in the chaotic starfields, many of the major forces and clans had been destroyed, but many experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm had survived. They were hiding in some small domains or dangerous secret territories. These experts had been killed by 1 or 2 of the 12 sovereigns, so they had a grudge against 1 or 2 of the 12 sovereigns. However, they had no grudge against the other sovereigns. These elites, who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm, all wanted revenge. However, now that the chaotic starfields had been divided, they had no more land and no chance to rise again. They could either leave the chaotic sky star area and slowly rise up in other star areas, hide in some secret lands, or seek refuge with the 12 dominators and obtain a piece of land to develop slowly. The reason why the Grim Reaper was able to recruit so many experts was that many of them were martial artists from these clans. As long as they came over, the Grim Reaper would give them a realm and guarantee that the other 11 sovereigns wouldn't attack them. This was something that the 12 sovereigns had come to an agreement on. They could recruit and absorb all of them. In any case, it would be very, very difficult for these small races to rise to power. If they absorbed it separately, they would all become stronger. They had occupied such a large territory and would become stronger and stronger. They were not afraid of the revenge of these small races. The 12 sovereigns were all recruiting, and it was obvious that the Grim Reaper was the most successful. This was because the Grim Reaper had set a very good example. 1,000 gold to buy a horse's bones. All the experts who came were given a realm and were given the position of Grand Elder. Most importantly, some of the experts who had joined in the beginning had now become elders with real power. They had become the upper echelons of the Grim Reaper. This was something that could not be obtained by joining other forces and large clans. What did it mean to have real power? It meant that they could get a share of the Grim Reaper's benefits. It meant that they could make their clans rise. If they did not have real power, then these experts would only be hired thugs. They would only be worshipped. What was the point of that? They could only get a meager amount of resources every year. Their clans would never have the chance to rise again. Power represented benefits and hope. This was what many small races wanted the most. The Grim Reaper had already sent out many elders to search for these remaining experts in the various mystic realms. As time passed, the number of Grim Reaper's experts would increase, and the Grim Reaper would also become stronger. Some of the experts who had joined in the beginning had already been sent out. For example, the 7 major star regions needed experts who were infinitely close to great perfection to hold the fort. Currently, 7 Grand Elders had already been sent out. These Grand Elders would not always be there. They would be rotated every 3 years. This would prevent these Grand Elders from forming their own factions and rotating every 3 years. It would be very safe. These Grand Elders who were sent out had real power. They were in charge of all the affairs there. All the resources were allocated by them. This was equivalent to being the overlord of a region in the Grim Reaper. This was a very important position. If this Grand Elder did well there, his position would be stable, and he would be able to lead the clan to rise. Currently, the 10 giants basically did not manage the specific affairs. They had all distributed their power, but all the department heads had to answer to the 10 giants. Moreover, they were in charge separately and in turn. In this way, the centralization of power could be avoided, and the Grim Reaper would be in harmony. There would be no mistakes. Lu Li's life became more comfortable. From now on, he would occasionally manage the affairs of the Grim Reaper. He would not get involved unless it was something important. He spent most of his time cultivating and trying to reach the Saint King realm. He had reached the peak of the Great Emperor realm a long time ago and was only one step away from reaching the Saint King realm. A new batch of elites came from the Middle King realm. The Lu Alliance was producing more powerful warriors as well. In the next 3 years, the Lu Alliance had more than a dozen Great Emperor realm warriors. One of them was a direct descendant of the Lu family who was very talented. He had been listed as a key candidate to be trained. This descendant belonged to Lu Li's 5th grandpa. Relatively speaking, this descendant was a branch. Since Lu Li had no offspring, those with the surname Lu were all direct descendant. This direct descendant was only in his 80s, but he had reached the quasi-emperor realm. It was only a matter of time before he reached the Great Emperor realm. Among Lu Li's wives and concubines, Yin Qingxi and Xiang Linglong were at the highest realms. They were both at the later stage of the Great Emperor realm, and there was hope for them to reach the Saint King realm. There was another talented warrior, and that was Enlur. She had reached the great Emperor realm. Her talent was amazing. Enlur had become another golden flower of the Grim Reaper. Many young masters were pursuing her. She was Lu Li's apprentice, young, beautiful, and talented. She had a special spiritual body. With all kinds of conditions, Enlur had many suitors. Many young masters from the other 11 major families came to propose marriage. Enlur was annoyed. She stated 2 conditions. If the 2 conditions could be met, she would consider marrying him. First, he could not be older than 5,000 years, and second, he could surpass his master in strength and achievements. As soon as the news was out, all the young masters gave up. There was only one person in the 8 galaxies who could meet the 2 conditions, and that was Lu Li. Chapter 35-39. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed. The Grim Reaper didn't collapse as many forces had imagined. Instead, it grew stronger. The Grim Reaper had been fighting for 30 years. It seemed that something big could happen at any time. However, nothing happened. Instead, the number of their most powerful warriors was increasing. The assassination business in the 7 galaxies was in full swing, and their prestige was growing day by day. The Grim Reaper had 63 warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect realm. Apart from the 10 masters, there were 53 that had joined the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper was a powerful force, far more powerful than the several masters. The Grim Reaper ranked 8. The Grim Reaper only had 10 warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect realm. Yet, they could control 5 times their number. It was a miracle. By now, the other masters had realized that the internal strife of the Grim Reaper was self-directed and staged by the 10 masters. Many great patriarchs of the Grim Reaper understood as well. The problem was that the plan was in place. After so many years of planning and operation, the factions had taken shape. The factions had been fighting for so many years, and the grudges were deep. Every powerful warrior was labeled with a faction, which could not be changed because the 10 masters wouldn't want it. The 10 masters had agreed that they could not poach disciples, and the great patriarchs who joined them could not change factions either. Lu Li's faction was growing stronger. In the end, Lu Li stopped taking in disciples because he was too powerful for others to play with, which would go against the original intention. Essentially, the purpose was to suppress the newly joined warriors. If all of them were on Lu Li's side, then Lu Li would not be able to control them, and the situation would worsen. This was something that Lu Li had suggested and taken the initiative to do. Out of the 53 utmost powerful beings, he had 10 of them under him. If he were to take them in, he would definitely have at least 20 of them. Right now, the ratio of the powerful beings on his side had decreased. The other masters admired Lu Li's selflessness. Lu Li's high status was acknowledged by the other masters. On the surface, the 10 masters were like fire and water, but on the inside, they were united. There was nothing they could do if they were not united. They had too many powerful warriors. The 10 masters only had 10 masters. If they were not united, how could they suppress the more than 50 powerful warriors? The division of factions was a perfect solution. The 10 masters would keep each other in check, monitor, and suppress each other. In this way, the balance would not be broken. Therefore, in the past 30 years, although it seemed like the major factions were as incompatible as fire and water, nothing major actually happened. On the contrary, under the reward and punishment system, the Grim Reaper started a healthy competition, and the Grim Reaper was thriving. With a large amount of territory, a large amount of resources, and the constant training of assassinations in the 7 major star regions, the experts of the Grim Reaper continued to increase. There were over 100 Saint Emperors, and it was estimated that there would be a few experts who were infinitely close to great perfection breaking through within 100 years. The only pity was that the Grim Reaper had yet to reach the great perfection stage, and it felt like it was still a long way off. The path to the consummate level was simply too difficult. Some of the big shots of the Grim Reaper, such as the Feather Emperor, the Winged Emperor, and the U-Emperor, had a 100% chance of dying. On the other hand, some powerhouses who were infinitely close to the great perfection realm that joined later seemed to have a slight chance. Of course, it was only a possibility, and no one could say for sure. If a great perfection appeared among the experts who joined the alliance later on, then the structure of the Grim Reaper would definitely change. Of course, the 10 giants wouldn't object to this change. It was a good thing to have a great perfection in the Grim Reaper. The 10 giants would be willing to be below the great perfection realm and let the great perfection lead them to greater height. Lu Meng had been developing well recently. There were 5 more great Emperor Realm warriors, and Linglong and Yin Qingxi had reached the peak of the great Emperor Realm. It would only be 20 or 30 years before they could reach the Saint Emperor Realm. Lu Meng went to the Noon Universe to pick up 2 groups of elites, but he also sent back 10,000 warriors. The 10,000 warriors were sent back mainly because they didn't have much potential. It would be a waste of resources to train them. They had been here for a long time, and their realms and knowledge had been improved. They could go back in glory. Those warriors were not allowed to have fun. All of them had to serve for a period of time. If they wanted to, they could serve for as long as they wanted. Lu Meng would serve with Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. His main job was to train young warriors and enhance the overall strength of the Middle King world. The Middle King world was weak, but Lu Li had always believed that the Middle King world was where his foundation was. It was his homeland, his compatriot. Below the Middle King world were the Second Heaven and many other universes, including the Divinity and countless mortal world. Therefore, as long as the Middle King world was managed well, it could bring new forces to the Lu Alliance. With the existence of the Middle King world, the Lu Alliance would have a foundation, and the Lu Alliance could receive constant reinforcements. In the end, the Lu Alliance could grow stronger and stand at the top of the chaotic star region. The Lu Alliance had many resources. Some of the resources could be given to the Middle King world. The overall strength of the Middle King world could be enhanced. When the Middle King world was strong, the Lu Alliance would be strong. When the Lu Alliance was strong, the Middle King world would be stronger. This was a virtuous cycle. Of course, there was one key factor. Lu Li could live on and he could stay at the top position in the Grim Reaper. If Lu Li died, then the Lu Alliance would be doomed, and the Middle King world's development would come to a halt. Boom, boom, boom. In the Heavenly King's realm of Grim Reaper, there was a high platform that reached the clouds. The platform was made of cold iron. Looking from the distance, it looked like a huge mountain. The area within a 3,000-mile radius of the platform was heavily guarded. There were inhibition formations in an area with a radius of 300,000 miles. Average warriors could not sneak in. There were elites of the Grim Reaper waiting nearby. To get in was as difficult as climbing up to heaven. At this moment, the high platform was filled with the sound of thunder. Terrifying bolts of lightning struck down continuously. The entire high platform could no longer be seen, but one could vaguely make out the figure of a person inside. The lightning was so horrifying that nobody dared to stand within a 30-mile radius. 300 miles away stood a group of people, including Lu Renhuang, Yin Qingxi, and Xiang Linglong. There were over 100 of them. They were the higher-ups of the Lu Alliance. All of them were staring at the platform nervously. It was Lu Li standing on the platform. He was going through the heavens tribulation. After 30 years of cultivation, Lu Li finally felt he had reached the critical point. Without any hesitation, he rested for 2 days and came directly to the Heavenly King's realm. The platform was specially used by the Grim Reaper to go through heaven's tribulations. It was not an average one. It was built with a rare material that could weaken heaven's tribulations by 30%. Inside the platform, there were many powerful divine glyphs specially designed to withstand heaven's tribulations. There were also pellets and other treasures provided by the Grim Reaper. Any warrior that came to take the heaven's tribulation would have a higher chance of success. As a matter of fact, all the super forces and families had such facilities. Otherwise, how could the descendants of the major forces improve so fast? Even with the platform and the preparations, the higher-ups of the Lu Alliance were nervous. Should Lu Li fail the heaven's tribulation and be blasted to death, the Lu Alliance would fall apart at once. The Lu family would have to go back to a Middle King's realm to linger on. It was even possible that the Lu family would be wiped out because Lu Li had made so many enemies over the years. Ha 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 ha! An hour later, the last bolt of 9-colored lightning struck down, and a loud laugh came from the high platform. The higher-ups of the Lu Alliance were overjoyed. Lu Li had successfully passed the heaven's tribulation and reached the Saint's sovereign realm. Chapter 35-40. Lu Li was strong. He had killed dozens of warriors that were close to the Absolute Realm, let alone Saint Emperors. Some said that he was the most powerful warrior below the Absolute Realm. There was something wrong with this. Lu Li's main attack power came from the super flames and the perishing liquid. Of course, this was also because he had a miraculous state of Dharma, which was one of his abilities. Every powerful warrior had their own unique abilities. Other warriors didn't have a state of Dharma, which was one of Lu Li's strengths. Lu Li was perfect in all aspects. The only thing he lacked was his realm. In the 8 galaxies, Saint Emperors were like dogs, let alone in the immortal region. Saint Emperor was the most basic realm. If one could not reach it, how could one be called a powerful warrior? The Lu Alliance had many talented disciples and the future was bright. But the Lu Alliance didn't have a single Saint Emperor. The powerful warriors attached to Lu Li didn't count. Those were just factions, not the Lu Alliance itself. Now that Lu Li had made the breakthrough, the Lu Alliance had its first Saint Emperor. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Lu Li had made the breakthrough. His abilities must have improved, more or less. This was good news for the Lu Alliance. Also, Lu Li's breakthrough was significant. Lu Li's status would be more secure. When he was at the Emperor realm, he could already kill warriors that were close to the Absolute realm as if they were dogs. He could even fight against those at the Absolute realm. Now that he was a Saint Emperor, would he be able to fight against those at the Absolute realm? Lu Li didn't come down after the breakthrough. Instead, he sat on the dais to check the changes in his body, to see how much he had improved. The first thing he did was to check his body. It was 3 times stronger than before. He could rely on his physical strength to withstand a move that was close to the Absolute realm. His soul was improved as well, by 3 or 4 times. Lu Li's life force had also been improved, which meant that his life had been extended. Normally, a Saint Emperor could live for more than 100,000 years. If nothing went wrong, a Saint Emperor could live for 200,000 or 300,000 years. Well, not bad. Lu Li checked himself and was satisfied. He was about to go down when he remembered something. He used psychic power to check the state of Dharma. This scan caused his soul to tremble slightly. This was because he discovered that there seemed to be a change in the Dharma realm, and it was a very strange change. He looked inside himself, and then disappeared from his original spot in a flash, entering the Dharma realm. He stood in the Dharma realm and looked around with his eyes wide open. He sensed his surroundings and could feel a rhythm. It was as if the Dharma realm was breathing and emitted formless waves. It could be said that the last mutation had given the Dharma realm a skeleton and made it more stable. This time, Luli felt the Dharma realm had come to life. There was something similar to life flowing in the Dharma realm. Surges of miraculous Taoist rhythms were flowing in the Dharma realm. Luli felt he was back in his mother's placenta. He felt comfortable. This, Luli exclaimed. Over the years, he had read a lot about the Dharma realm and had gained a deeper understanding of it. The Dharma realm itself was just a small space created by experts. It was a kind of Sumeru space. There was still a difference between this kind of Sumeru space and a real world. It was impossible for the Dharma realm to become a real world. At most, it could be refined into a supreme treasure land. Many experts' Dharma realms were huge, even bigger than a small world. Inside the Dharma realm, there might be energy in heaven and earth, flowers, trees, and beasts. That being said, when Luli went in, he could feel that those spaces were different from a real world. Those were strange spaces, not real worlds. Those spaces were dead, not alive. Now, Luli sensed that his realm was coming to life. There was a trace of Taoist Tao and a mysterious energy. Luli could not tell what it was, nor could he sense it. But he could tell that the realm was changing, evolving, sharpening. Previously, the Dharma realm had been expanding as well. But that was only the space. Nothing else changed. But this was different. This was a sharp change, an evolution. Of course, this was Luli's subjective deduction and judgment. Luli wasn't sure if this was really the case. It was just a feeling he had. He stood in the Dharma realm and sensed it quietly. He stood there for 5 days. Then, Luli opened his eyes. There was a look of worry on his face. After sensing for 5 days, he could clearly feel that the Dharma realm was slowly changing. Although the changes were very, very slow, they were indeed constantly changing. But was it good or bad? The Dharma realm was the source of his strength. Without the Dharma realm, there would be no source of energy. Without the Dharma realm, he could not even use stealth skill or traceless path. Without the Dharma realm, he would not have the super flames or the liquid of devastation. If something were to happen to the Dharma realm, then his abilities would be greatly reduced. He might even become disabled. His Dharma realm had changed. He didn't know how to deal with it or who to ask. This had never happened in history. Even if he went to Emperor of Feather, Emperor of Mo, or Emperor of Wings, he wouldn't be able to get any answers. If he could ask the clan leader of the gang race, that consummate realm warrior, or the king of the East region, he might be able to get some guidance. But the Dharma realm was his secret. How could he share it with others? Strictly speaking, the Dharma realm was not changing. The existence of the Dharma realm was not normal. How could a warrior at the 5th Tribulation realm build a Dharma realm? Therefore, any change in the Dharma realm could be accepted by Luli, never mind. I don't care. Luli shook his head. He would monitor it more in the future. There was no need to keep an eye on it now. His body flashed out, and then he floated down the high platform, landing next to Lu Meng's martial artists. The higher-ups of the Lu Alliance congratulated Luli. Luli smiled and said, "Let's go. Let's go back to the Tianhua city." Okay. The group of powerful warriors flew to the north in a formidable array. In less than an hour, they arrived at a big city. Then, they took the teleportation formation back to the Tianhua city. As soon as Luli came back, many powerful warriors swarmed over to congratulate Luli. Luli had only reached the Saint King realm. But for Luli's faction, it was a joyous event. After a few days of excitement, Luli was ready to take a quiet rest. Lu Renhuang hurried in and asked with surprise, "Lier, you have a master?" "Master?" Luli blinked in confusion and asked, "Why do you ask?" "There is news from the Middle King universe that a mysterious powerful warrior has gone there. He said he is your master and he is looking for you." Lu Renhuang took out a letter, read it and said, "Right, he said his name is Emperor Rui. To protect the Middle King universe, Luli sent a master of formations from the god of death to build a messaging altar so that he could send a message in case of emergency. Luli came to his senses when he heard the name, Emperor Rui. He remembered a dusty past. If it were not for Lu Renhuang, he would have forgotten about the endless ruins. Luli stood up and asked, "What else did he say?" Lu Renhuang explained, "He didn't say much. He just said that Emperor Rui has something urgent to talk to you about." P.S. Updated early. This is the update on the 18th. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.